You guys were
we're just kind of. All right, let's go ahead and use the call to order our work session meeting February 2nd at 6 p.m. So I think, Pat, did you want to?
Sure, I can start us off there. Good evening. Thanks for being here early. Getting started on this. So what we're going to try and do in the next in the next year anyway, is on our regular schedule meetings, maybe an hour ahead, and then planning additional meetings throughout the year, and also interact with the public. Probably hold a Saturday session, a couple of them, so that if they want to be in person instead of using the digital platform that'll be on there, we'll give them a chance if they can't make it to these 6 o'clock meetings and things like that. We were not able to have the consultant at this meeting due to the fact that their contract agreement has not made it through legal yet. So.
Oh, okay.
And I talked to him, said, I don't know. Anyway, that's what the case is on that. So hopefully we will get that taken care of. Here in the next week and a half. And they'll be able to make it to the next special meeting probably, yeah.
Does their contract go for a full year, 12 months?
It goes until completion.
Oh, okay.
So, if it takes 15 months, then that's what,
15 years.
yeah, you can, but I don't know that I will. No, you're exactly correct. So the first two chapters were just to get started on it, to kind of to see how this is going to work for you, and if it's going to work for you like this. And like we said before, no question, no idea, no anything is the wrong thing to say. So, and then also we had talked about tonight in a brain dump, informational dump, whatever we want to call it. And everybody has an idea. Hopefully you brought some. You can write them down, or you can tell Amy directly or tell me directly. I don't know that it'll do you any good to tell me, but I can't remember this stuff. But I'll try and get it to Amy immediately. So, so we, get started on that. First, I'd like to maybe just go around and anybody, do you have any comments on, I know this was fairly easy, but do you see that if there's going to be a big problem with it? Some of these chapters we'll just have to take one chapter at a time. And some of the areas will be actually doing, there won't be that area in there. One is, I know that we want to concentrate on outdoor living or alternative transportation type trails, things of that nature, parks, and what we foresee in starting at different areas in the city and where we foresee the parks to lead to and how that will go for the whole community. And it's not just our community on that, it's actually our whole what I want to call region, Miami and Johnson County. Try and tie it all in together. And believe it or not, Miami County, we've just started getting into Miami County as far as annexing property and serving areas there. There's more and more interest in the Miami County side of our community every year there's more and more interest. We just, you guys, if you recall last meeting, you just approved a pretty good sized plat for the Miami County side there, to 223rd and Victory. So, there is more interest, and that property's been for sale a long, long time. We've talked about it for several times. We talked a little bit about the realignment of Webster. We're still going to look at that from our perspective on what we think. I'll still bring the three proposals that we're going to be taking to this body as well as the governing body. But at this point right now, funding is not really available to do that, but we still need to plan that area. And there is enough funding to do some of the initial stages of it and try and get that into the comprehensive plan, how you see fit that it would be best for everyone. A few things that I want to mention before we get going here is just remember, we're doing this for the entire community as a whole. It's very difficult for myself, staff, as well as I understand everyone, to kind of look at it and say, well, but it's not really fair for this neighborhood, or maybe it's not fair for the neighborhood that you live in, or something like that. But it's the community as a whole. And I want to take a look at the Miami and Johnson County side with equal types of, although, we'll probably concentrate more on Johnson County just because that's where the growth is. And we're coming from north going south with growth, and it will continue that way. We'll have to look at what we feel like, is it going to come from the west and I say the west, 169 as the borderline, basically, let's say we in a line or a line in the sand. Is going to come from the west, go to the west, or be on the west side, or is it going to be on the east side? Combination of both. We're going to have to try and figure that out. And why I say that is because a lot of your decisions, as far as growth and growth patterns and types of growth and types of use, land uses and all, that steers the comp plan. Or steers the CIP, I'm sorry, capital improvement projects. The comp plan steers it. In the past, when the CIP was brought to this body, it was kind of, oh yeah, we'll look at, well, we like some sidewalks, we'll like this and that. Where we will design the comp plan, and it's this way for all communities and should be, is that does the CIP complement what the comp plan wants to achieve? And that's really what we should be looking at. Not that, we're trying to run everything and all that, but there's a reason that we do a comp plan. And there is a true reason that CIP is looked at by this body. So just to keep it in, so that you guys know, these are all the objectives that we're trying to do. One of the things that I've been struggling with and hope that your wisdom and guidance can help me through this is, where do we look at for industrial? You have to have it. What areas do we look at? Or, I say we have to have it. You don't have to have it, but it is a complement to the community as a whole. And maybe we look at the size, because now I look at the state sends out projects through the Commerce Department, through all kinds of different state or agencies. And they may be called Rooster or who knows. Like Kubota had, Mustang was their code name. You have no idea what it is. They give you some parameters and stuff like that. Everything I look at, the minimum's like 70 or 80 acres. You know, some of these are coming in 600-700 acres. And it's like, wow, you know, we couldn't do that anywhere right now as we sit, you know, especially with our comp plan, just the area that our comp plan covers. So that's one reason why, and I warned you ahead of time about this, is why I think that we're going to be, our comp plan is going to cover a vast area. And it'll be a large area that we will cover and try and do some planning. And obviously, the farther you get away from your core, the less real true planning that a lot of communities do. Well, in this, I hope that we can define ourselves a little more. You know, maybe 15 miles out, we don't tie our hands to industrial, or we don't tie our hands, but you know, we kind of show a planning, and maybe it's an area where that we feel like, you know, an improvement on a structure going over I-35 and kind of plan on a new exit there, or, you know, I'm just throwing things out. Maybe down at 68 Highway, you know, we see, hey, this would be a good area for, you know, we kind of look at this and say commercial would be good here. Doesn't mean that we will ever make it there. You know, maybe another community will, or there will be developed under the county or something like that. But it does help. I received a plan from the county not very long ago and said, hey, do you have any comments? Well, that whole area is just a big marker of residential, you know, and this happened to be a commercial, and there's not much to stand on, because I just have to look at it and say, well, it looks like back in those days, everyone just thought that should all be residential, you know, because way out of date on 69 Highway, 169 Highway, 68, all those are very close to us. You know, and especially if you're, I mean, just take a look over there at Intermodal. You know, 3,000 or 4,000 acres, just boom, seems like it was overnight. And it doesn't take very long at those sizes chunks to make it a lot of miles south, a lot of miles west, east. Of course, we can't go much north, much farther north. So anyway, it's kind of a quick overview. We're very fortunate. Well, Spencer's here, and so is Rhonda. Oh no, I told you, Spencer, don't rush. So questions of anyone at any time, just say it and they'll answer, or try to anyway. If not, we'll get back with you. And then with that, I don't know the best way that you want to approach it.
Well, some of the comments I would have are that it's pretty boilerplate, like the intro and the
Oh, yeah.
and then the chapter 2, the planning process. I mean, I almost have to see other like gold standard, you know, comprehensive plan. I mean, you know, for me to work on this with limited time would be difficult.
Right. Well, I think that mostly what on some of these chapters, like the planning process. I mean, are you comfortable with your planning process? What do you see that you think would be better? Now, I can tell you what we are trying to accomplish is to have everything digital where we can instantly get to it, things like that, so that questions come up. Insert a lot of this in conjunction with Ames, so that at all times the public can look at it, realtors can look at it. I mean, I get a ton of calls that, you know, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? What's a zoning here? What's a zoning there? Where, you know, so well, did you look at Ames? Yeah, but it doesn't, and sure enough, it didn't show it. I do understand what you're saying is, hey, if we had 3 different communities here and all, but I think that one of the, maybe not problems, but one of the things that in the past is this community has been too much reliant on not what they want. But as well, this is how it's done in Overland Park or Olathe or Paola or whoever, you know. So, I mean, if you see in the process, you say, hey, you know what? I think the preliminary plat and final plat shouldn't go together in one meeting. Or a final plat and a site plan shouldn't go together, or anything. Now, we don't have to know these answers tonight, and that's why we will just continue to, what I want to just call open mic it. And everyone will, you know, say their idea, and maybe Troy has a good idea, Mary, any of you. You know, and then we can look at it and we can go back and and what we're gonna do, we'll take notes, we'll adjust what we hear, and then we'll go back to it. So, a quick overview. I do understand what you're saying,
And
though.
part of it was we were counting on, I think, the consultant.
Yeah, and that's true.
Some guidelines as
They have to.
hey, this might be a good recommendation for change, or maybe think about this for change. For me, to look at this, it looks pretty good. I don't know how I would change it because I haven't really been involved in different things outside of the
Right.
community, right?
And you are correct. The consultants will have different ideas for us and say, well, and they're going to say a lot. Well, this is how other communities do it. You know, we have to make a hard decision if that's what we want to do. And hopefully agreement will be ready for the next session. So,
I just had a couple of minor questions, which
Sure.
are probably editorial in nature. In section.
you might want to turn your mic.
1.3
Is your mic on?
Yes, it is.
Is it? Oh, there you go. So the public.
In section 1.3,
Mhm.
it makes reference to sort of planning areas, and it notes that 183rd Street is the northern sort of planning
Right.
limit. Well, isn't it really 175th?
Yes, and
And
so
so I don't know, I mean, it's.
Well, on
irrelevant
these-
Whether we change it or not.
oh, we will.
No, I
And
think they're referencing this map right here where it's.
Well,
that's what I was
yeah,
going to
but
say.
The
Yeah.
map is
Well,
incorrect.
It
Well,
is in-
and it doesn't have the Olathe, the annexation of Olathe on the map, so that's what I noticed too, so to Rodolfo's question there, yeah, I mean, that, we're not sure about the exact
And
specifics of
the
that.
other sort of related to that, and maybe I misunderstood it, but I understood that a couple of, maybe 4 or 5 meetings back, the city council approved some boundaries or extensions of the city limits.
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
No, no, they've not made official boundaries of any type.
Okay.
But what we'll do here is, and that's what I was saying, I want you guys to think because it's coming up quick. And although it says in the vicinity and planning area, so it's immediate.
Yeah.
But in a couple more chapters, you know, we'll say our future land use area. And that's where I was talking about. Where do you feel I mean, how far out do you feel comfortable in going? In what direction and all that? You know, with the Bucyrus sewer line coming on, obviously, you know, we need to plan to Bucyrus, and maybe just another couple of miles is 69. So, you know, but do we go on the east side of 69? You know, you only have another couple of miles in your Kenneth Road or state line. So, and then, I mean, do we want to take over Missouri? I don't know. You know? So,
That would make the lawyer's jobs much harder.
yeah, oh, okay.
Care
Well,
about my
shoot.
sanity.
Oh, gone it. But yes, to your point, that's it. And I have not heard anything on, now what they did discuss is, sewer line extensions, basins. And when we get into the next one, I'm hoping that, I wanted to show that to the, consultants first is, you know, we have a basin quick study put together on where it drains and things like that. So, that's the only thing I can think of. I can't think of anything else. Boundary lines?
They did snow routes, they
Yeah.
did, they've done a number of things like that, but not changing the boundary line.
No, they just, every year in December, maybe that's what he's talking about, the end of December, they do that
Oh,
resolution. for-
okay, that's,
Sets the
okay.
boundaries.
yeah, set your
There was a lot of
boundaries.
latitudes and longitudes.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, every year we're required to verify our annexed areas or our actual city boundaries. That's exactly what it is. Thank you, sorry, I didn't think about that, so. Okay, so we know that, we have some work to do on 3, and then, and the consultant can bring us some additional information for that. Maybe it's just best that we start tonight and figure out what everyone just put down what you think and where you think we ought to go, and we can put it on a spreadsheet and things like that.
Pat, I did a brain dump on another map too. I can share.
Sure, yeah, no, that's great. So, and what we'll do is we'll get a. Where are the others?
Here, I've got, we can have this one.
Oh,
I need to put
okay.
batteries in this one.
Are you kidding?
Well, I'm not kidding, but I'm prepared with them.
She's the tech department.
Yep. My computer up here also.
Yeah, so we can. That's weird.
So,
He always comes.
So I took a really high level approach at some of the key, large kind of big moves I wanted to focus on, and it's definitely not limited to this. This is just off the top of my head, things I was wanted to focus on and in no order, but starting up at the top here is obviously the whole regional trail idea. And I put clearly identifying that route, cause currently right now it just looks like just a random line drawn through our city. So I wanna be really, attentive on where we, plan on locating that trail, and maybe I've stated before, living in Minnesota, I've seen them connect, from downtown metro down to the burbs, and I think there's an opportunity to provide a regional trail that has access to Johnson County proper, down to Hillsdale, which is a state park, and that's a great amenity to be adjacent to. I show it running down along Woodland for a ways, because I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential there with one side of it being the railroad. I think there's potential of locating, maybe creating a brand new road type, if you will, a road section where you identify the right of way, but maybe there's a trail component to that. And so how does that, regional trail bisect the city? The next one obviously is our zoning. I apologize to anyone involved in our current master plan, but I feel like I operate on, just tell the truth, and you don't have to remember what you tell people.
that's exactly
I feel our zoning's kind of was just haphazardly just kind of dropped in random places. We have random just multifamily clusters here and there, and that doesn't really speak to why. I like to see us start focusing a lot more density along, the highway, the urban and commercial core. That'll make a more walkable community, and also puts a lot less stress on our road infrastructure. As we all know, we struggle with our road infrastructure, so you create more density closer to your highways, you're taking less traffic through your city.
Yes.
And then think of it as a gradient, where your denser uses are closer to the highways. As you move out, we have those larger acreage lots that, a lot of our community really love about our city are these large kind of farm-like lots. So identify those out here and just really hold on to them. Don't rezone them into more multifamily. Next, the industrial, Pat. I was saying consolidate the industrial, keep it near the highway, so you're not taking trucks through our city.
Sure.
So they have easy on and off access, but consolidating it along, whether it's on both east and west of 169, or if we do go to 69 or 68, just keeping it together and near the highway. Again, I don't think it makes sense to put it out here, then you have truck traffic going through our city. Next one, Identifying, your commercial nodes. I was thinking of putting, identifying nodes at where large intersections are, and I identified 199th and 223rd as what could be these commercial nodes, these urban cores, if you will. And then look at Webster and doing an overlay district there, where we have a lot more stricter guidelines in terms of what you can put there.
Right.
Maybe everything's got to be brick or brownstone or limestone or timber.
Yes.
But it all has the same facade almost.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates that kind of postcard moment, if you will. That's where our I'm blanking out. Our fall festival, our parade goes down Webster, and it's like just
Yeah.
really
And-
create a moment.
Right. And, we'll look at the downtown area and all.
Yeah.
But it is, the truth of the matter is, it's very tough to get to. It is, most people, they worry a lot about driving down the streets, their children jumping out and all, because, it is reality. Everybody parks up and down the roads. It's one.
Yeah, and I was speaking of Webster, and I think downtown, I think there's an opportunity once Ridgeview goes all the way through, and you extend
tap off of
Nichols
that.
and Hale, that I think you can have a strong kind of a historical area almost with the Central Park, maybe even future City Hall that's across the tracks or near the old downtown. So actually, you sort of tap back into the old historic part of it.
Right.
So I think there's opportunity there.
I think one of the hardest things about placing any type of like City Hall down there and all
Yeah.
is we were down there in that building while they were redoing this one, and those trains are terrible.
Yeah.
The train
Maybe there's
knowledge.
something to do with the train track. Maybe, I grew up in Olathe and off of Ridgeview, and I forget, there's the old Jiffy Lube there, Ridgeview and 135th, and they eventually put that up on a bridge.
Right,
And now
right.
it's like you don't even notice.
Quiet track, yeah.
I
or quiet.
used to live by Mahaffey Farmstead. So
Yeah,
it's the same
so
kind of area.
yeah. So, but we've had the vision of taking Webster for quite some time. All of you spoke about it, and create some sort of corridor there. And I don't know that. There's not much room to widen Webster. So I think that it is a good opportunity to slow the traffic,
Yeah. 'Cause,
control the types of uses along there and all.
169 is your bypass anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I agree. I think you bring the scale more to a residential scale. I think you look at like 0 front yard setbacks, like head-in parking, and you slow down traffic, create a more intimate type of main street, if you will, right there.
Right.
So you actually feel like you can stop, park it out, and walk a couple blocks and cover some stores while you're doing it.
Right.
You can't do that now.
No.
It's, you might-
And I think we need to go back to, in some of these areas, and really think about connected commercial again.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I brought it up before.
No, I know
Whether
you did, and that's what I'm
whether
saying. I
it's,
think that-
Mass Street or Aggieville, whatever your poison is, creating that intimate kind of main street, where you can have the parades and festivals and celebrations.
Right, and that's why I brought up Maine,
Yeah,
because it really is too far off the beaten path.
right.
It's not expandable,
No, I agree with that. I just think there's a preservation.
Oh, there has to be
sort
some sort of
art,
preservation, you
just
bet.
to
Yeah.
keep it on tap.
And hopefully we can continue to have the unique shops that will draw some people down that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, it's paying attention to, it's probably not correct, but Old Spring Hill and retrofitting
Original
streets.
platted.
Yeah, the original like you can't forget about them. Go in there, retrofitted with a sewer system, sidewalk
Right.
system to make it a true walkable neighborhood that ties into that new downtown.
And I think along with that, I think you're exactly correct, is that we take, maybe every 5 blocks, and instead of just having a regular sidewalk, you having a widened sidewalk or a walking trail or a running trail or something like that, to get that connectivity through. So,
So that was just my very high level brain dump.
all right, that's good. Let's take a break. No, no, that's,
No, I think that some of those also speak to people's constant mention of small town feel.
right.
And if you do move those things away the way you're suggesting, that helps accomplish that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we need to remember is maybe just pick an area and say, this is, and maybe it is Webster Street right there. This is our concentrated area for what we really want to see as the small town part of it. Because face it, you take these commercial hubs, and those commercial hubs are not going to be able to afford to put in a 17, 18, 20 million dollar infrastructure and have it, an all walkable area and things like that. So I do agree. I think, and really Webster's from Sonic on down to 223rd, or not quite to 223rd. I think that is a good area to, you have a lot of houses there that, but they're slowly being turned into commercial. And I think that once you get it started with supporting connectivity commercial and making it a area that people, you can park down here and you can walk all the way down, you can eat, and you can maybe have some entertainment and this and that. I think it'll take off pretty quickly. And then, the concentration of subdivisions and all, they're gonna do the infill. And your quick trips and things like that, they're gonna go on those commercial.
Yeah, and then that's
areas.
the other thing is, you have commuters, in Johnson County for work. If you can grab some of that revenue off those off
Yes.
ramps and pull them in, so whether you have a Menards or a grocery store, a big box
Mhm.
of some sort,
Right.
they can come in quickly, grab what they need, and head back north or south home. But at least we can pull them in here, and then this is more of the intimate, local.
That's us, yeah. And I think that's a good start, and everyone needs to, and if it's that area, I think that's great. One thing that I've noticed is, where here we have a lot of smaller commercial development, but in the true planning of it, you come off the highway, there's not a lot of stacking room. There's not really some room sometimes to do the proper road improvements and things like that. In keeping it out towards the highway, it will help us limit the amount of road improvements we have to do. So 199th, 223rd, and remember, that's something that we'll have to think about is what do we foresee our east-west collector being? If it's 175th and it's 68 highway, then there it is. Who has a thought on east-west routes?
I like what you just stated, personally.
So, you said going along with the east-west route, so as
Mhm.
I'm looking at the map, I'm looking at what are natural boundaries, or what are natural obstacles for development, and from just my experience with being up in Lawrence and some of the other places I've been, you have 169 and you have the railroad. Those are the two natural defining things that to go on the other side of them is gonna be a major issue. Because you're gonna
Yes.
have to either do bridges, you have a bridge here, and they'd like to put a bridge in here, but then you've also up here at 191st Street and 183rd Street, you're dealing with how do you get across the highway?
Right. So
Let me just,
Yeah.
those are what I see. You've got a natural boundary here at 169, you got a natural boundary at the railroad tracks, because you don't want people crossing railroad tracks unless you have either elevated railroad tracks or do some sort of bridge over them. Downtown, you can't do that, there's not enough space there.
Right.
That's just the way it breaks down. So those are the two things that are your boundaries, so if you could strategically place where your expensive points are to get across your two boundaries, which is the railroad tracks and 169.
yeah, and
I think that's kind of
and
what
that's-
you're alluding to.
right, and really, with Webster going from 199th to 191st, we're going to try and utilize that as a side connector to signalization, where we're not going to get it immediately at 191st. We know that. So Webster will be able to guide it down to 199th. Now it gets congested there, but hopefully we can get that at 191st, and then we can bring 183rd to 191st and or on down. You see, but you're exactly right. We need to, and I think 223rd is underutilized. I really do. I think that there could be a lot of very positive growth down there just because of it is already an overpass, and I
Are you thinking
don't.
commercial or
Oh, sure. That yeah, with the commercial hub there.
on the other side of it, or?
Well, it would be both sides. Yeah, I think yeah, because you have to also remember 223rd, and you've kind of drawn it there. It also goes under the railroad tracks, and then if you remember 223rd ties into Victory. Victory is a major arterial for us, and then you can route. You widen Victory, and you can go all the way up to 175th. So, but you are correct. Those are the two blocks: is the railroad tracks and the highway. And for right now, we have to kind of play with the cards we're dealt and work on those intersections to try and get as much traffic flow through those as we can.
So to go along with the railroad tracks, when you're talking about industrial, do you want industrial that's gonna be using railroad tracks as opposed to using trucks?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, so that kind of, you were talking about your industrial, here you got this one, here you got this one, well, where's the next one gonna be? Like, could it be over here, or is it gonna be over, you know what I'm
Needs
saying?
to change it.
Those are the things that if you're looking at what your natural boundaries are and what you're trying to avoid, my wife and I were just talking about it, the truck traffic. People hate truck traffic. Well, how can we direct
So-
those to 223rd Street or off of Webster so that we're not, we have what we have here now, but how do you avoid making it any worse?
Right, and I think that's the way we do it is the corridor planning, and trucks just can't come down Webster, and they go out to the highway or down to 223rd. And one thing that is going to be interesting, I think, that when I'm very anxious and to see what everyone says is, we brought up the Main Street area. Truth of the matter is, when you look at the Main Street area, it probably should go down and be industrial. You have industrial all around there. You have a co-op there. You have some, the old lumber yards there. It's an industrial type use now, or a very heavy commercial. So, the police department can't stay down there forever. There's just no way they're going to be able to serve this community properly from that area. Public Works they're going to have to move out somewhere on property we already have. The maintenance of vehicles, and with some of the new programs we're coming on, you have to keep them indoors. But my point is do we look at it and eventually just say it's right next to railroad tracks? This probably would be a good location for some industrial type use. Now, that's not always popular. But remember, when I started off, we have to do for the community in this comp plan what's best for the community. As far as overall, what we really think will work. I don't truly believe. I think you could keep downtown alive, but I think you're talking about spending millions and millions of dollars on the road system to get down there. And then you get down there and you're still caught, right? Caught by railroad tracks. You're caught by one-way streets all around the area. And you're also limited parking. I mean, and it's, so it is something that we need to look at and I was gonna bring it up later on down the road, but it's something to look at. You get a railroad spur right off of there. And if you look at it, heck, off of, it's called Lincoln Street by the Kitty Factory. I mean, it's right there. There's just a handful of houses there that it would be nice to connect those and then have that all turn into industrial that a spur would come off of, or utilize some of the existing spurs. I don't know, but it is something that I think's worthwhile in looking at.
And then the next thing that brings to mind then is everything's based off sewers. I mean, wherever your sewers are, is where the growth is going to go.
Right.
So where is
And-
the next sewer plant gonna go?
Well, the next sewer plant will be right there. Our sewer plant's only at half capacity. It was built to expand to 1.5, I believe, the size of it.
25 years.
No, that's right. No, and this is what I'm saying. Yeah.
So the natural
But
rate is
you're,
pretty
yeah, and that's what I said, we actually have some of those that we're gonna get out to you, that shows the drainage basins. Cause it'll be, and actually, we have some cost estimates of like one drainage basin that we looked at. It was just a cool 52 million.
Just 52.
I think it was 52 million. Not bad, okay?
Not bad.
But the truth of the matter is, we do have some drainage basins, and some of them are very reasonable. 215th, the Roush Coleman, it'd be on the Johnson County side, just west of 169. Hi, Roger. That, they wanted to put a lift station on it. But anyway, we're gonna gravity that down through there. And I say it's a conjunction private-public. And I think those are the items that, yes, you're exactly right. Where's the existing sewer now? What will develop the fastest? So, or in a more timely, right?
What about on the other side? I think that's all septic, isn't it?
Where at?
On like 207th, 216-ish.
Mm-hmm.
On,
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah. We've actually, there, Columbia Road, and that would be probably in that 217 area in there. We've had several of them come to us. I think they did allow a couple of them to tie in with an agreement that they would never fight annexation and all that, because those systems are failing, and it's 40 to 50,000 to replace them. So.
You guys made a great point.
No, that's what we need to do. No, you're exactly right.
If
Yes.
You get your sewer systems established, you get your infrastructure figured out, then the growth is gonna happen off of that.
Right, but we have to place them correctly.
No,
If you,
absolutely.
I mean, if
That's
you
what I'm
remember
talking
what
about.
happened to this community back, 22, 25 years ago, we've got sewer systems out there that haven't been touched. We've talked about that. But, now they will be, and to everyone's point here is, no matter what people say, your commercial wants to be as close to the highways as possible.
Commercial or industrial?
Well, commercial and industrial. Now, industrial, I think that, you brought something up that I think is gonna be very important, is can they get a rail spur? And then electricity. Evergy's working on some big plans right now. I don't know what's coming. And the other thing is too, guys, we don't wanna be walked over by a big company that comes in and says, I want to be right there. And, we've taken the brush and we've brushed it and said, well, yeah, this would be residential, which we haven't really given any thought to it. And they say, we want to be right there. Now, if we say, I'm just going to pick a spot, industrial up here, no, you need to go up there where it's already planed. Because as you can see, there's really not much industrial, and for that fact, there's not much commercial planning here. And I think that's where you're guiding us, where you guide it to where you really like to see it. And then, someone brought up schools the other day, and I don't think that, well, we can't, there's just no way, because how it is, price of land goes way up but I do think that we could go in there and say, hey, we're kind of looking at, kind of like the park. We'd like to maybe see a park in this area or something. And whatever we do, we need to keep our parks along your floodplains and things like that. Just,
I didn't even get into the recreational stuff.
yeah, but you know what I'm saying. We really do need to do that because it's more willing for the developers to donate the property to us and connectivity. And then maybe, you come off of it with an 80 acres or something for another ball facility or things like that. And it really is kind of sad. We were in a meeting today and they said, yeah, we do this and this and this for the city's community buildings and all that. And well, just looked at each other. And we don't have anything. I mean, we don't have anything. So thanks for the offer, but it's sad. How about your swimming and this and that? Well, we don't even have that. So I think those are other items that what I was saying about the CIP and all, and what you guys would like to see, I think that's really good. Thank you, Josh, and everyone. What we'll do is, if it's okay with Josh, we'll email that out, and then everyone can start getting some comments and all to us. And like I said, everything is good. Everything is. Except staying late at night. Let me rephrase that. So, thank you, and we will get better organized and better accomplishment. I think it's going to be really good to see these areas. Now, it's kind of like what I said. Everything is good. You're not going to be criticized. No, I'm sure I'm going to be criticized for saying that the downtown needs to go away. And I'm not saying go away, but really look at it realistically. Is it going to survive, and would it be more advantageous for the community for that to be an industrial area? So, but we also want to keep open mind in whatever the community brings forth to us as well. And I hope we really do get some good community involvement in the matter. And for that matter, I hope we get some good involvement from residents that live or own property in the county as well. But I'm hoping that we will, and I'm going to ask for good involvement in true planning practices, not dreaming that property is just going to be wildlife. There are some areas that probably will for as long as I live. There's no doubt. But a lot of these properties that are adjacent to growing developments and all, it's really unreasonable to think they won't develop unless purchased by someone that just absolutely does not want to develop it. So most of the time when we're faced with that here before too long and we've been faced with it before, I want to keep in mind a realistic approach on it. Thank you.
Thank you,
all.
Pat.
Oh, thank you.
I think we'll take a quick break if anybody has to go to the restroom. I'm gonna go before we start our 7:00 meeting.
We have, I can let them in there for water and soda and things like that.
We have to adjourn the work session. Yes.
Oh, if you want to. Oh, we do. We do. There you go.
Here.
Come on, Mr. Attorney.
So I'll just say.
He's got it.
Yeah, okay,
Waiting
so
for it
it's,
to adjourn.
so officially the work session is adjourned until 7:00, our regular meeting.
Regularly scheduled program is coming up. Thank you. I'll put the time you showed up.
Nope, there's one lady sitting back there.
Get turned out.
Well, I was supposed to come see you on Wednesday at 1, and
Where?
I've been burning both the camera from both
County.
ends all week. So, yes.
Trails go.
I know they haven't really done anything.
Outside of what's on
Don't think it's good. Yeah, well, so
Pat, are you ready to,
depends on the temperature.
you ready? Okay. It's, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Planning Commission, February 2nd, 2023, it's 7:03 PM. The first item is Pledge of Allegiance, so let's stand and say the pledge.
No, I'm good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item is roll call. Amy?
Mrs. Dobson?
Here.
Mr. Dutzman? Here. Mr. Earhart?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Aravalo?
Here.
Mrs. Dominic? Mr. Sly?
Here.
Mrs. Squire?
Here.
Mr. Welsh?
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item is the approval agenda. It stands. I'm assuming there's no changes, right, Mr. Burton? So we just need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded to approve the agenda as it stands. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 8-0. The next item is citizen participation. Now, this is anyone who wants to sign up, typically for items that are not on the agenda. We always encourage citizen participation. We have 2 public hearings tonight, so we'll allow, at that point, I'll go through the process and tell you, when you can come up, and then you just have to state your name and address, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
But I'll go through the process when we get to the public hearings. So the formal action tonight starts now. It's approval of the minutes if there's nobody signed up. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So there's no citizen participation on agenda, items outside of the agenda. So our formal action is, the first thing is approval of the minutes from January 5th. Does anybody have any issues with the minutes from January 5th?
I move that we approve the minutes from January 5th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded to approve the minutes from January 5th meeting. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
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 Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0-3. The next item is revised preliminary plat 63-2022 Oak Woods. Mr. Burton, you have the floor whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. So this is a revised preliminary plat of 75.82 acres. And the overall plat was 434 doors per se. If you look at the existing preliminary plat in your packet, you can see that along 169 highway, there is a road that runs along, one side is what we call it, runs down along and then ties back in over to the next property to the south, and then also Sycamore Street, which runs up by the Aquatic Center. So did everyone find the existing? Okay. So what has happened on this is, up now is the revised plat that takes that road out of there. There's several factors here. One, this large drainage area, it just never did make sense to put a major structure across that. And I've been trying to be very proactive on if there's going to be some major drainage structure or something like that, is there a way around it? Because, the city has to maintain those in the future. And those are expensive. Any bridge or structure or anything like that's very expensive. So they've rerouted this and put a few cul-de-sacs in there to eliminate that road coming down, everything ties back in the same areas that it did before. We had a comment of, well, you know, it doesn't tie in. If you look at it, it ties in exactly the same places that it did before. It just takes a little different route on one of them there. And other than that, the few changes, you know, it's a little easier to sewer in some of the cases, and it does eliminate that structure.
It's not changing the number of lots though, correct?
No, it does not really change the number of lots. I think it did reduce just let me ask the, went up by 13, so there you go. So, this plat, the other plat, the existing preliminary plat right now was like a 2021 plat. And the right-of-ways and utility easements are actually better on this revised preliminary plat. And this would be it due to the fact that they're in the final stages of this development. City's gonna provide the water and sewer to this, and it already complies with the zoning and comprehensive plan. The actions would be to approve it, modify it, table it, or reject it. Staff recommends approval of it. Be happy to address any questions, concerns, comments.
What did the additional 13 go in?
Probably there on the end of the cul-de-sac areas. You would gain a few off of the cul-de-sacs.
So you're losing the road that runs north and south on the west side of this property, is that correct?
Yes, the
So it's
Entire
so
road that-
it becomes a cul-de-sac there at the detention pond or the detention basin,
Mhm.
instead of continuing all the way down south
yes,
along the west side of the property, and then catching Sycamore Drive and 218th and 219th.
mm-hmm.
So those are just going to end in cul-de-sacs now.
Yeah, just realign.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Any emergency worries about having only one entry? for
There's
roads?
more than one entry. There's multiple.
Well, if you're down at the end of that
points.
cul-de-sac and it's blocked at the beginning of that.
Oh, and to answer your question from the fire department, I'll know. They had no comments on that. The only comments they did have is they had looked at it wrong and thought that there was no tie-in to Sycamore anymore. And, you know, we have tie-in up here at I imagine it's 17th or something. So there are still all the existing entrances and exits going to the east are in this, as well as the one down to the south, which, you know, if it wasn't already existing, diving it into that corner like that, I know why it was done originally is because of the drainage area, but I would hope that we would come up with better plans in that in the future. It's just like, I mean, that was a major structure going across that drainage area there to have that street.
Is there any other questions? I'll give you a minute or two if you want.
So I guess my only question is, so what's it gonna do to lots 152 and 143 if they're down if they're down in that area now, where it was gonna be difficult to put a road down, what's that gonna do to those houses?
Well, all the lots have to maintain out of that flood area. You have to remember, I mean, you're building a major structure there, you know, to cross it.
It's
And
a question. It's
no,
not- it's
and
not a-
all these lots will have to stay out of that flood area there. And the rerouting will not have to take place on that drainage area as well. But no, I understand but all these structures pads, basements, whatever will have to meet that minimum low opening.
Sorry.
I mean, you had the same layout with the other plan. You had, several lots, within that flood area there.
I mean, before you had 5 lots, 6 lots across there in the very far west.
Well, everything from
And now you've got,
your first cul-de-sac all the way down flowed
I
through
guess
here.
it's,
if you
they're
look.
just
See
facing a
that?
different way.
Yeah,
than
that's
before.
correct.
So they were going east and west before, now they're going north and south.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. There you go.
So was the plan originally to build that up so that we could get the road in there?
Yes, it looked like they'd probably have to import to end up getting the structure and the road and all that in there.
So it looks like it's to the city's advantage to not have to put the road in.
Oh, it definitely, and that's what I was saying earlier, if not today, 10 years from now, or 15, 20, whatever the case may be. It's almost like a case down by the Bowery where, they put in the Liller, bridge structure and all, and a couple of years ago, we had to go in there and spend millions of dollars, and I think $1 million to, correct all that and all. Probably $2 million structure today. If you remember, Dayton Creek just has one crossing. They originally had 3 different crossings in that, and I believe they probably would have gotten the permitting. But the city just looked at it and said, 1 crossing's enough for us to maintain, much less 3. So,
Any other questions for Mr. Burton?
any questions for the engineer as well? Phelps Engineering is here.
Mr. Burton, you might have asked this question might have asked, maybe I just didn't comprehend it.
That's fine.
We can't put a road there, but we can put a house?
Sure. No, we can put the road there. It's the structure to cross that creek is the costly, possibly, sometime in the future, it's got to be fixed. It's not going to last forever. And those houses, there were always houses proposed there. If you go back and forth and look, just turning different directions. Yeah, it has nothing to do with putting the road in
I
there.
see the detention area now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ignore me.
No, it's
you.
no problem. Really.
I'm good.
We're kind of down in the final phases as well. So
Yep.
they've built really quickly in there and sold, and a lot of good families.
Any other questions? If not, I'm just looking for a motion. If you don't have any questions for Mr. Burton or Doug's here, the engineer.
Motion to recommend approval of revised preliminary plat application 63/2022 Oak Woods subdivision. as
Second
presented by
that.
staff.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion, and it's been seconded to approve the revised preliminary plat 63/2022 Oak Woods as presented by staff. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Burton. The next item is a public hearing, and I think I should go through the process real quick here. I'll open the public hearing, and then the commission members will describe any ex parte contacts they've had discussing the case or any conflicts of interest. And then we'll have the staff present a report and comments regarding the case. And then the applicant is always welcome to come up too at that time and make a presentation or answer any questions. And then the commission members will ask for any needed clarification of the applicant or agent. And then we'll have then the public can come up to, at that time. I'll let you know when to come up. We try to keep it to 5 minutes a person. But, you know, if you go over that, it's okay as long as it's, you know, meaningful. And then you just have to state your name and address. And then, once commission members can also ask for further clarification from the applicant or staff after the public comment. And then we'll close the public hearing at that point, and then the planning commission members will deliberate amongst ourselves. And then there's a 14-day protest period that begins after the public hearing's closed. And you can always file a petition, you know, protest too, at the city clerk within that 14-day period. So after reading that, we'll go ahead and, so I'll open up the public hearing, so I'm opening it up to the public. And then I'm gonna ask again, does any commission members have any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest regarding this case? It doesn't appear to be. So, next, Mr. Burton, you can present your report once you're ready.
Thank you. We've looked at this property in the past, had a preliminary plat on it, and with the rezonings, it did make it through this body and then was turned down by the government or the council. So, and what this body here had, this commission, is that if you recall, they had some 40-foot wide lots. And they were gonna adjust those to 45, and they decided to go ahead and take it as it was, I think there were like 27 40-foot lots, to the governing body, the council, and it got rejected. And since that time, that developer decided that it was no longer in his best interest to develop in our community. So what we have tonight is some rezonings. There'll be 3 different rezonings on this property, and to try and have a workable subdivision there that will be more appealing to this committee as well as the governing body. And we had a lot of talk about this from surrounding property owners. Most of them were in the county. So if you can pull up the map, and there we go, thank you. Great, all right. So the first one we'll look at is RR to R1. And this is a 91 acre site total. And the RR is represented by the white. So as you can see, there's a lot of areas that are all white, and there are no areas any longer of multifamily. Everything is zoned R1 or RP1. The green is the R1 zoning. So the consistency of the regulations, the purpose of the regulations, intent of this district, the rezoning is consistent with the future land use plan and map. In all directions around this, it's residential type uses, whether it be ag, whether it be RUR or straight R1. Neighborhood characteristics, as I just said, the surrounding is all residential. There's some mixed residential use, but there is no commercial use And for the majority of it, it is R1 zoning in the area. And that answers the next question as adjacent zoning. There is some RP4 that would be to the west of this, but as you remember, we have the large park area down through there doing a separation. Suitability for the current zoning, the site's consistent with a single family type use. You can see in the future land use plan, it strictly says residential use. Change of conditions, this is just based on the future land use plan and the comprehensive plan in the guidance that they were given to make that area residential. Suitability of the parcel for use, it's perfectly located for single family. Now, if you remember, everything that we're looking at tonight in this is single family, whether it be an RP or straight R1. The green up in the top represents larger lots, but it is R1. Length of time it was zoned R, it's been zoned, and I put for a while, that's not very good. It since annexed into the county, or from the county into us, it was an RR zoning. It came R to the closest use. Adequacy of current facilities, there's sewers there, water's available, and in looking at these, trying to figure out is there good green space, good park space available, and there is. Also, in going with that, in talking about the park space, the developer has agreed, once they get going and all, to participate with the city and hopefully the county and other organizations to actually construct that park. Public gain, the public gain on this is, we've gone back to the developer, and the developer has addressed the input from the area. Even though all of it was from county residents, he has gone back and addressed what he heard and what he heard from the planning commission and what he heard from the governing body. So there is no longer any multifamily at all in here. Not even duplexes. Hardship, the applicant has not spoke of any hardship. The hardship in denying a straight R1 zoning is on the city. Conforms to the comp plan, obviously. Cities will provide all the sewers, and Water One will provide the water. Alternative actions include approve it, send it to the governing body for the February 23rd. Denial, and still go to the governing body February 23rd. Continuance, and notify the applicant of it. Staff, in reviewing this, recommends approval of Z64-2022 as presented in the report. I'm more than happy to answer
I have
any
a question
question.
for you.
Yes?
Do you mind explaining the difference between R1 and RP1 to the public that's here tonight? Because we have is that okay?
Sure. It's real simple. Yeah, the RP1 allows the developer to maybe shrink the width of the lots. And in this case, he has, but none of them at the building line are less than 65 foot. 60 foot at the building line. And, it does allow the commission and the governing body to put some stipulations on, which we use every time, of, placing some stone and brick and rock or dress up aesthetically pleasing a little more, maybe some more landscaping and things like that. So that's really what it does. Setbacks can be a little closer. 5 foot, we do not allow anything less than a 5 foot side yard setback. 25 front, 20 back sometimes, but 25 and 25 usually.
Yeah, so the R1 is zoned single family and they're bigger lots. The RP1 is what they call planned single family that has to come in front of the commission with the plan, the site plan. And so I wanted to make sure the public was aware of that. They're all single family. In fact, the R1's gonna have bigger lots. What is it, 7,500 square feet versus 5,000 for the RP?
It's,
One is a minimum, yeah. So I just wanted to make that clear, but I wanted to open it up for everybody to ask questions.
but that's not, I want to correct you. RP1 doesn't have to have that. I mean, the planning commission can go clear down to 40-foot wide lots.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't want to confuse
No, I just
anybody
wanted to
where,
make it clear.
where they look back on a different plan that we've approved a, 45-foot lot and doesn't meet that square footage.
Yeah, the R1.
Better controls.
Right, there's more
That's bottom line.
controls with the RP1, but
Yes.
they're also can have smaller minimum
Yeah,
size lots.
that's correct.
So I wanted to make, so the R1 does not have to have that, a site plan approved, yeah. But go ahead if there's any other questions.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Is there anyone from the public?
I can get out.
And, developers welcome to come up too, if there's no questions for Mr. Burton, if you want to. Yeah, go ahead, you can come up. And then we'll open it up to the public questions after, if we don't have any further questions.
Hi, my name is Jason Meyer, Meyer Landscape Architecture. I'm a land planner and landscape architect on this project. I'm here representing THS Investments, which is Tom Smith, and we have Phelps Engineering here that can answer any other detailed questions. I thought I'd also add a couple of things. The previous plan, that was Summit Homes plan, I think there were 100 more units on that plan compared to this one. So we have much less density on this plan. Also, I wanted to reiterate, the RP1 also requires 15% open space. So if you see down in that southeast corner, we've got parkland, open space there. We've preserved the existing drainage swales on the site, and then, oh, I'm sorry, we're just doing zoning.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
confusing there. It's just R1
Sorry.
right now, but.
My bad. Okay, well, I can come back and talk about that too. Anyways, I just want to kind of clarify some of that stuff, and if you had
No, that was good, yeah.
any other questions on this, I'll stay talking about zoning.
Sorry, didn't mean to confuse you.
It's okay.
I was trying to help the public here understand.
And we just placed that up there. We placed it up there to give a visual of the areas that are being zoned. Now, the developer has been kind enough to supply that to us, and now you can see what would be coming next. But as far as getting into the weeds on the preliminary plat, we cannot do that.
And what was R1 on this picture?
It's the green and white.
Green and white.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And if there's no other questions for the applicant or Mr. Burton, the public's welcome to come up and put any input or comments in on this. And just state your name and address when you come.
It's Anna Taylor at 18785 West 199th. It's listed as Henry. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Anna Taylor, 18785 West 199th. It's listed as Henry. Okay. My name is Anna Taylor, and I'm here to ask that you deny the request for rezoning 207th and Ridgeview, which backs up to my property. I understand that Spring Hill is growing and there needs to be room for progress. However, I ask that you hold out on rezoning this parcel and at least wait until something more suited for the area is proposed. I believe that to allow this type of housing to be built next to my property would not only be ill-fitting, but would be negligent and irresponsible for two of the following reasons. First, I'm a professional competitive shooter and range safety officer. I own multiple businesses which center around my ability to shoot often and for extended periods. On my property, I regularly conduct product development and testing of holsters and gear, as well as testing and evaluation of firearms for several manufacturers. A standard T&E requires a minimum of 500 to 2,000 rounds at a time. My husband and I shoot between 10,000 and 12,000 rounds annually on our property. I purchased this home specifically for this reason. This is our direct source of income and livelihood. Building the proposed subdivision next to my property would result in a lot of complaints and pissed off people. Secondly, I'm a content creator that focuses on educating people on safe and efficient gun handling for personal defense. In 2022 alone, more than 16 million Americans became first-time gun owners. Education is crucial in preventing tragedy and is an integral part of being a responsibly armed citizen. Being able to create content and film online courses on my property makes a difference that extends far beyond our community. In the last 6 months alone, I've reached more than 40 million people with my educational content. Complaints by surrounding residents leads to regular interruptions by law enforcement. These interruptions hinder my ability to focus on the work I'm doing, and the flood of new complaints would be inevitable if the subdivision is built, and could potentially lead to loss of my income of my household, as well as deprive millions of Americans my service that makes homes and communities safer. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Go ahead, Mr. Burke.
I was gonna wait and see if there's any other public and then I'll-
There might be, yeah. Does anyone else want to come up? And we appreciate your comments too.
Good evening. My name is Christine Repine. I live at 14520 West 155th Terrace in Olathe. In 1994, we bought 36 acres on Ridgeview, where we lived for 20 years. We sold the house and 10 acres in 2013, and we currently own the remaining 26 acres at 20477 Ridgeview. According to the Spring Hill website, as of 2020, the population was 7,871, and the number of households was 2,636. In the last decade, 610 residential building permits were issued. In 2020, about 4 to 9 were issued per month. As Spring Hill continues to grow, what is the actual need for additional housing? And how many developments for these residential units have already been approved to meet that demand? This proposed densely populated development is in the midst of rural properties, many of which are 10, 13 or more acres. Many have livestock and consist of agricultural crops. The proposed lot sizes are not in keeping with the rural surrounding properties. A development consisting of 1 to 3 acre lots would be much more appropriate to retain the rural nature. The traffic on 199th, 207th, and Ridgeview would be significantly increased with this development, and they are already major routes to the local elementary, middle, and high schools. Adding another several hundred families traveling on these roads, sharing them with the existing traffic and our local farmers driving their farm equipment would be a real problem. I might also add that hunting is allowed on our property, so we would have probably some problems with some neighbors being concerned about the gun shooting going on as hunting season is open. I thank you for allowing me to speak, and I ask that you would vote this project down. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, speaking of traffic, Mr. Burke, has there been any, I can't remember if we had some traffic studies done with the development as
or not? Can you refresh my memory on that?
Yes, and the first traffic study, you know, and this is a lot less dense here. You know, there's not as many homes here. And the first traffic study on this piece, they are doing a, you know, touching it up and all, but, you know, it didn't show, it showed some on and off lanes and things, or turn lanes and things like that, but overall, and in conjunction with the work that we'll be doing on 207th Street in the future. So I do need to, Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yeah.
we did, well, Mr. Peel received an email, and I thought it only fair to read Mr. Gallagher's email, since I don't believe he could make it to the meeting.
Sure.
Thank you. This was sent to a council member, and the gentleman's name is Randy Gallagher. And he was looking forward to, I was looking forward, I'm going to speak as if I'm Mr. Gallagher, thank you. I was looking forward for a way to contact the planning commission in regards to the February 2nd meeting about the rezoning request, 207th and Ridgeview. Kat Knabel directed me to you as a point of contact to be able to relay this to the planning commission. Thank you for doing that. My wife and I own property at 20275 Ridgeview. In general, we are very supportive of more housing and more housing options in Spring Hill and the surrounding area. However, earlier, similar subdivision, and we were concerned about that development in the request of how many houses were, meaning they're multifamily. Since the multifamily is not there any longer, the details of the R1 and RP1 houses do not concern us, but the placement of the small lots directly along Ridgeview and 207th concern us greatly. These are busy roads that will get busier with development. The properties across these roads, especially in Ridgeview, are larger tracts and lots and seem likely to be developed into higher density subdivisions in the near future. From my perspective, this is exactly the sort of transitional zoning being referred to in the comp plan. Looking at most subdivisions, similar transition, especially in the neighborhood along 199th, the developers went significantly more effective in creating a buffer along those roads, also meaning trees, berms, and things like that. Our request is the Planning Commission and the City Council require the developer to be more respectful in the way that they landscape the area. That we know it is very difficult on properties that are adjacent to proposed developments. This should occur along the borders of both Ridgeview and 207th, meaning the additional landscaping. I can see the proposal on the city's website as compressed in such a way it was difficult for me to interpret it. Must not have opened it in Adobe and was able to expand out on it. If the proposal were modified to call for berming and better landscaping, wider area of planting trees, shrubs along Ridgeview and 207th, we would have absolutely no objections. We would have no objections to what is being proposed for the rest of the property. This would benefit some of the landowners as well as future residents of the proposed neighborhoods. Thank you for your consideration, Randy Gallagher.
And he was talking about the RP1, the berm there. Is that what he?
I think that overall he's concerned about all the way up and down the road. And one thing that the people can't see is there's a huge right-of-way there. These houses will not be built right on the ditch. These right-of-ways are 60s, aren't they? 50 on, that's what I thought. So we have 50 foot one side on 207th, that means it's 100 foot wide, and 60 on one side of Ridgeview, meaning that it'll be 120 foot wide. So in driving up and down Ridgeview, you can understand why if you're not in tune to reading plats and things like that, that you would think, my goodness, they're going to put houses right there, and that's not the case. So that does help explain some of that.
Yeah, helps. All right. Are there any other
What are they showing up?
public comments? It's good, the public comments for the developer to hear it, the city to hear it, and for us to hear it, if you have any.
Yes,
Every little comment helps, so.
I'm Ray Holt. I don't live on Ridgeview. I live on 207th Street. I'm 500 feet or so east of that intersection.
And just state your address for.
Yes, 17720 West 207th Street. The name is Ray Holt. I'd just like to add my support to Mrs. Repine's statement about the larger tracts that, I've lived there for over 40 years. I moved there to get out of the congested area of Shawnee, Kansas. I like the quiet neighborhood. I like the bigger lots. And since I've lived there, I've seen development after development on, or home after home go in on 5 and 10 acre plots. I would just like to suggest to the developer that there's money to be made in that, obviously. I don't know why they couldn't do the same thing here. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, come on up.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Williams, and we have a house on 20595 South Ridgeview Road. I guess I just want to say, we moved out there in 2005, and, we moved out there because we wanted to be in the country, and of course, we would love to still be in the country. So, of course, knowing that Spring Hill is growing, we'd love to see bigger lots there. We are concerned about the traffic on Ridgeview and 207th. We're also kind of concerned about the flooding, because I live close to that corner, and I know we're not the house on the corner, but right next to it. And even though our neighbors that live there are not here tonight, but whenever we have a downpour, their land floods. And I'm just concerned of the flooding with all those houses there. Where is that water going to be going? Because our properties are kind of down the hill from that. And so I just wanted to make sure that we're kind of looking at the terrain and making sure that the flood, we don't have more flooding issues in the future. All right.
Thank you. And Mr. Burton, we talked about the flooding before, right? Can you address that?
Remember, we have the preliminary plat coming up. This is strictly rezoning.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Go ahead and address.
but yes, we address that on every plat. The water discharge from the site cannot exceed what it discharges as it sits today. So, and in through this, you can see that they've used some tracks for some retention areas to send it to the floodplain areas and all. And then the floodplain areas cannot be increased also past what the FEMA guidelines are. And in this case, it would be the Johnson County water. The engineer can speak a little better on that. I do want to break my own rules and address what I spoke about. I thought so, but I needed to go back and verify it. there are already also landscape tracks in there, 25-foot track on Ridgeview and a 35-foot landscape track on 207th. I just wanted to make sure of it, and we'll discuss that in the preliminary also, but I just wanted to address it while I was thinking about it.
Yeah, that's perfect, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Maybe there is. Go ahead, you're welcome to come on.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I'm Kat Knable, on behalf of our family property, 20477 South Ridgeview. Sorry, I've got too much stuff with me. Okay, so since we're doing the public hearing, are we doing it for both of the rezonings or?
Well, this one's just pertaining to the R1.
Just R1 and
Yeah,
then
that,
you're
which
doing-
is the white and,
Okay, so then you'll do another
right, the
Okay.
next public hearing
for
is for the
RP1?
RP1. Right.
Perfect. And there's not one for the plat, the preliminary
No,
plat, is
that's
that
not a
correct?
public hearing, but.
Okay, so if I have any things I want to say about what I saw on there, then I would do it
You can bring
during.
it up. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you so much. I guess I first want to say thank you to THS Investments. I don't know the representative that's here for listening to us last time that we were at the city council meeting. I think that they did hear what we had to say and they tried to incorporate some of our concerns. From what you can hear though, from everybody that's come up and talked so far, I don't think that this is exactly ideal to the characteristic of the neighborhood that is currently existing, that people have intentionally sought land, built, or bought there intentionally for these rural, large lot properties. I know when I was on the way here, I was listening to your guys' work session, and one of you mentioned, I couldn't look at my phone because I was driving, but one of you mentioned that there's, nice, large rural lot areas, and we want to keep, kind of some of the density towards either the highways or towards, where there's more, like, I know that there's not multifamily housing in this plan, but it made me feel really good to hear that somebody was, considering us, because sometimes we feel like we're not heard. I know that we get referred to as the county folk a lot. Just because we are not zoned in the city doesn't mean we don't live in Spring Hill. It doesn't mean that we're not part of Spring Hill, we're not part of the community. Everyone that's come up here and talked, if their land is zoned for county, yeah, they're across the street, but they're not considered adjacent because there's a road between them and this parcel. They are adjacent. This is what they look at every day, They've got, their sunsets. They've got all that open land that they've been used to, that they intentionally sought their properties for. And I don't think that anybody is over here saying, we don't want any growth. I think that they're wanting the most ideal growth. I think that, like I said earlier, I appreciate that THS, Tom Smith and his daughter, that they actually listened and that they tried to incorporate as much of the stuff in there as they could. But with that said, to Mr. Gallagher's points that he was talking about, when I'm looking at the plat, I know that you had said it was 60 feet plus, is it 25 feet? In addition to that is where there'll be a setback. It's hard for me to imagine, like when I drove on 199th Street yesterday, there's Brookwood Farms, and then across the street from that is it Boulder Springs? They have really high elevations and trees and fencing and like they do have the telephone poles on their side, and the telephone poles are on the other side of Ridgeview, right? They're on the east side of Ridgeview. And when I was driving through there, I really couldn't see into that neighborhood. When I was looking at their planting description, the fine print is so small, it doesn't matter how big I blow it up. I can't see whether they have anything planned for elevation. I can see where they're gonna put their trees in and their bushes in, but as from what I could see, it didn't look like they had any plans to berm it or to elevate it up. And it would be a benefit if they do put this neighborhood in there, if they were to do that, so they don't hear the noise from from Ridgeview, because it's gonna be loud. There's gonna be a lot of traffic on that road. It's gonna be a very, very busy road. I have not read a single note that I have written. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so off track. I'm just kind of talking just from my thoughts. And I know, I've got like a whole book here. So I did want to talk on that the Boulder Springs, they do have really nice berming, and they do have a nice elevation. So if there is a concession there, I know that THS has listened so far, and so that is something that I've heard from a few of the neighbors, that would be a very small concession. With that said, I don't want to jump onto the RP1 since we're just on R1 right now, so I'll keep those notes for next time. But I am concerned about the infrastructure. The road being expanded, is that just gonna be on the city side, just to have a turn lane going into there? Because I know that the county is on the other side, so as there's more wear and tear on that road, who's gonna be doing potholes on the east side versus the west side? Like, are they gonna work together with the county and the city? Is it all gonna get done at the same time? Is there a roundabout going down there? I heard rumor that there's gonna be a roundabout at 207th and Ridgeview. Will that go in first? Are they gonna do that afterwards? I don't know. But that was just this last week. I guess that was mentioned by, at one of the, Woodland, I think it was Woodland Ridges meeting. I'm worried about the farmers. You know, they've got all that machinery and they have all that middle school, elementary school, high school traffic that's going down that road. Plus you have, oh gosh, we'll have the new subdivision that got approved on the north side of 207th Street. That's across from, was it Woodland, is that Woodland Ridge? Okay, and that's gonna be, is that sixplexes? Fourplexes? Fourplexes, okay. So, you know, that's quite a bit of traffic. That's all gonna kind of, if you're taking 207th Street, dead ends into the railroad tracks, or you take Woodland, and Woodland we all know is in, you know, it's gonna be hopefully getting repaired. But that's a lot of extra traffic. And then if you're farmers and you're trying to take these roads also and trying to go around all the school traffic and work traffic, it's either you take the roundabout up by the high school, that's always insanely busy, or you go the other route, and that's usually the route that the farmers have to go to with their combines and tractors and everything. So basically, my biggest concern is how do we transition the old with the new? You know, that is in your guys' comp plan. I know that you guys are revising the comp plan, which I'm super excited about, and good luck to you guys, because it's a huge feat, and I am not jealous of you guys at all for that. But within your comp plan, you know, it talks time and time again about how to preserve the aesthetics of Spring Hill and make it still like feel like a small town that people intentionally want to live in, right? You don't just get plopped in Spring Hill. You have to intentionally seek out Spring Hill. You have to drive a further distance to get into town. There's a lot of perks, but there's also, you know, it's a place that I think we should intentionally grow. We shouldn't just say yes to everything that comes along. I do think that, okay, that's again RP1, so I'll wait on that. I don't think it's unreasonable what they're asking. I don't think it's ideal for this area. I do think that these are large lots. These people have intentionally bought them. They're intentionally building on them. And it does not fit with the characteristic at all of the neighborhood. It is a neighborhood. They might be county, but it's a neighborhood. You know, a lot of them have been there a long time. And that's all I'll say for R1. And I'll say the rest for RP1.
All right, yeah, and we'll address some of that if we get to the preliminary plat
Okay.
section.
Well, and I won't get to talk during the preliminary plat, right?
Well, we usually don't allow that.
Okay.
We could, I mean, I'm okay with it.
You guys might change your mind after my RP1 stuff.
As long as we keep it short and to the,
I will. I'm not long-winded, I promise. I'm gonna just look real quick.
We can help you, Kate, keep to your notes.
I know, well, I have so many of them though, so.
no, did you have anything else before, for this R1?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Hardships, just so you guys, overall, hardships that I see for our immediate community that is around that area, which is not just Ridgeview, not just 207th Street, but the traffic coming down from the different schools, right? We've got increased traffic, infrastructure. Infrastructure also includes, though, the repairs, whether it's county, whether it's city, them working together, and whether or not we're expanding, what we're doing with that. Safety, whether it's, like Anna was talking about, with them having, you know, the shooting and the gun range, you know, my folks, I know there's, most of the people out there, they shoot, they've got a natural burn back there. There's a lot of shooting that goes on out there, and so there's obviously the safety. What if some kids decide to cross the street and they're coming over and they're hanging out? I mean, we've got a big pond out there, so there could be people that are out there hunting on their land, and it's not really a safe area for the park land and everything, and then kids crossing the street. So it's just a thought. Noise, city lights, light pollution. We're not used to having lights out there. The closest lights right now are the high school lights. And that was a shock when those came in. You know, it's a big glow that goes to the north, but at least we can still look over to, okay, I'm rambling again. I never want to tell someone what they can or can't do with their own land. So that's why I do say if this is going in there, the berming, the intentional berming, trying their best to try to make it look like it's intentional so that when they're looking over there, they're seeing at least trees and making it look like they're not just looking at the back of a bunch of houses is my biggest beg of you guys. You guys are our advocates, you guys are our voice, so I hope that as you guys are voting for things, that you guys are at least passing along recommendations that you guys see as they're, looking at you. So, thank you guys, I'm sorry. There
No
we go.
problem.
My one hand, got my gear together. Sorry
Now,
about
is there any other public comment?
What? I might make notes though. We'll see.
Oh.
Thank you guys.
Make one more comment.
Yeah, come on.
Since I've lived there over 40 years, the county owned all that property there, all that farmland that their development now is, proposed to go in. They replaced that whistle pipe twice. And since that time, the farmers have terraced that field, and I've still seen that pipe overflow. So flooding is gonna be a major issue there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think the public's all come up here. If there's anybody else for this R1 zoning, you can come up and talk. Or if you're gonna wait for the preliminary plat.
I'm Tanner Hudson. I live at 20575 South Ridgeview Road. I worked my butt off for, 16 to 23, saved every cent I made and bought my first house. And I didn't want it to be in a neighborhood. So I'd really like to see it be developed into 5 or 10 acre lots or something like that. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we have one more, and then,
Hello, I'm not really prepared, they got me
Okay.
all geared up, so. I'm Ann Simmons, I live on 18245 West 199th. The roundabout corner. So with this going on, we don't want this, as everybody said. We'd like to see 5 or 10 acre, residential housing on 207th and Ridgeview. Now that Garrett's Farm's gonna be, this was a shock to me because I didn't know it was gonna be multiple unit housing. So it increases the traffic on 199th and Ridgeview down to 207th, all the way actually to almost 183rd to 175th. There's too much traffic now. I can't even get out of if I come out of Ridgeview driveway, I'm sitting there. People won't even let me out of my own driveway. So, and with trucks coming through there, I have no buffer on my corner. It's very, very dangerous since that roundabout was put in there. If you come east, or coming from the west going east, just drive down there sometime. And if they miss that turn, I've heard trucks jake braking going into that roundabout coming from the west. They would go right into my house. There's no warning really to tell a truck driver that's never been on that road, or even a person, anybody, any of us driving on that road. If you drive coming from the west and you go in there, they'd be right in my front yard. There was a semi caught up on the corner one day, and I kept hearing something, and I'm like, it sounded like a freight train coming through my house. He was stuck on the curb right there, because he went up like this. The trailer was tilted. So, it's very dangerous, and the roundabout got put in. I don't think it's correct. It's not even round, it's oval. It's not lined up with 199th. And I don't know how it's gonna put up all this traffic from both of these corners, from 199th to 207th. Oh, excuse me, and then north. So I'm proposing with everybody else We need larger residential housing on that corner.
Okay, thank you. I think if we're finished with the, are we finished with the public comment? Is there anybody else? Remember, this is just the R1 zoning.
Yeah, my name is Larry North. I live at 20591 Ridgeview, and I kind of feel for everybody's points that they brought up. The traffic, I can hardly turn to the south out of my driveway before school starts, and it's the opposite when school lets out. And if there's going to be development, it just, in my opinion, needs to be large lots with a big berm on all sides on the transitions. But that's my take on it. I think we have enough growth in the city. I moved out here for it quiet and simple, and it's just going the wrong direction. It's just, we're just building, I hear Olathe, they don't have enough kids going to their schools. So they built them all, and I think you ought to slow things down and take a breather. There's plenty going on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're done with the public since about everybody came up here. If there's anybody else, please come up. If not, is there any other questions? I'll close it to the public if there's no other further public comment for this hearing. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it to the public. And then if there's any other questions for the commissioners now, for Mr. Burton or the developer, now's the time to, I guess, bring those up for the rezoning. And if nobody has any questions, then I'm just looking for a motion at that point.
Steve, I'll just speak up and say, I hear what everyone's saying, density, growth, it can be scary, especially when you're not used to it. But it happens, you can't avoid it. And when we're talking just about zoning and turning the map from one color to another, I think single family here is entirely appropriate. I think if you take Ridgeview as a precedence and just head north, take yourself up to K10, it's all single family and it's just been growing down south. You can't stop growth. I mean, you just can't stop it. You have a 1,400 students high school just a half mile north here, 528 student elementary school, 528 student middle school that's about to open. That's 2,500 kids roughly. I mean, this is a family-oriented community we're in. I mean, I think it's appropriate. I think that the owner of this land, the developer, whatever you want to call them, they did come back with a new improved, in my opinion, plan here. I think it's a good use. Again, it's 500 feet from Brookwood Farms, which is another single-family development. Just north and west of it. If not single family, then what is it? It's you want it to become Garmin, that's on Ridgeview, Indian Trails Middle School, Ridgeview Elementary. You go on. I mean, go further north in Olathe. It's coming. It's what do you want it to be? And I think this is a great use given our school and our communities in this area. I don't want to see a large commercial, outfit come down here. I don't want to see name a company and their headquarters be plopped down here like Garmin, ended up across the street from a middle school up in Olathe. I don't want to see that here across from our high school. So with that said, I support this application.
And it's also less dense than previously what it was zoned for. So this is actually going, there's no multifamily anymore on there. So it's a lot less dense than, previously. Is there any other, thank you, Johnson. Is there any comments from commissioners?
No,
Please feel free.
I have to agree with Josh. I mean, I'm a county resident myself. I'm one of the county people on this board. And I have a property that's right next to mine that I would hate to see this many houses next to it, but I understand that's the part of the growth of this town. And, you know, one of the gentlemen said he's been here for 40 years. Well, 119th was the outskirts 40 years ago. And now it's in the middle of Olathe, and it's a bustling part of the city. And like Josh said, we're never gonna stop this growth. The growth is gonna come. It's gonna overwhelm all of us, no matter which way we look at it. And the only thing we can do is either continue moving out and getting further away from the city and getting away from those creature habits of being able to go in 10 minutes, or do we move out to where we have to be an hour before we get into the city to ensure that we're gonna have a lifetime without having the city encroach on us? I made the decision to be this close to the city, and I understand if it grows, it's gonna grow around me, and I'm gonna have to live with that. Cause I don't plan on leaving my house either. But growth is coming, whether we like it or not. So, I know that, even if we didn't put these houses here, and I put them in a different part of the city, the traffic's still coming. They're still gonna go to those high schools, they're still gonna go to those middle schools, and they're still gonna go to those elementary schools. The traffic's not gonna change, no matter where I put these 300 houses. So, I hear you, cause I'm a county resident myself, I completely understand, but the growth isn't gonna stop. So, I mean, I support this, I think that they came back with a reasonable plan. And, I'm totally for the berms and the different things that people asked for, and making sure that we put in some trees and we stop it. At least make it look like we're looking at trees and not looking at somebody's backyard where they're, running around, so.
That's a good point, and we can address that in the, the preliminary plat. Are there any other comments from commissioners?
I agree, I'm also a county, not in the city, and I'm the only house on the block. But I preferred, instead of, like what it was before, when it was the fourplexes or apartments or whatever it could be, I would rather, if I were to get neighbors, to have a little more control over what kind, I would rather have another house family versus what it was before with the RP.
Right, the
What it
multifamily,
was?
yeah.
So, I mean, I agree, I agree on both sides. I get where you guys are coming from because you like the rural, or, county, I do too, but it's like these guys said, it's gonna grow. Let's kinda choose wisely how it's gonna grow.
I just need to address. The developer was nice enough to share the plat with us. We're zoning R1. So if he wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have known if it was 5 acre lots, 10 acre lots, or what. So when we'll talk about the preliminary plat, but this is R1 zoning on it, so.
I mean, going from RP to.
Well, and
No,
Pat,
it's rural residential.
There was never,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
RR, yeah.
I'm almost to the point where I don't want them to show us this anymore.
And I think that we're gonna get to that point, just because,
We get out of we start falling out of the
I agree,
the legal aspect of what this board is supposed to be doing, and our lawyer shaking his head,
yeah.
because
And
as
we're just trying to give all the information we
we're
can.
falling out of the legal spectrum here, so
Yes, I agree with you,
I feel
so.
like we just need to.
I agree, we're just
move to
changing
a
the map
motion.
from one color to another, and I think this
Yep.
is a great use for it.
Well, my thing that I would address is the size of the roads, the road spacing. It's 60 feet on each side from the center line, plus another 25 feet of easement for landscaping. So you're at a minimum, that's if you're on the property line on the east side, you're at a minimum of 120, over 150 feet away. Plus if there's 25, so now you're at 175 feet away. So it's not like you're gonna be very close to anything on the east side. And I understand that if you're used to looking at a field with crops growing in it, then that seems very close, but it's not. So.
Thank you, Troy. Any other comments? Or questions for the developer? And if not, I'm just looking for a motion at this point.
I move to recommend approval for the Spring Hill governing body for the rezoning of Z 64-2022 as presented by staff.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded for the rezoning application 64-2022 from RR to R1 as presented by staff. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 8-0. The next item is the next public hearing is 65-2022. You threw a little couple letters in there though, PZD. 65-2022, RR to RP1. And so I'll go ahead and open it up to open the public hearing as, you know, we're supposed to, and ask commissioners if there's any ex parte communications about this or conflicts of interest, and if not, I don't see anybody, then we have Mr. Burton to present a report. So you have the floor, Mr. Burton.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners, Chairman. This is, again, the same piece of property. It's 42.25 acres. Can you show? Oh, you're way ahead of me, never mind. It's represented in the blue. And it is, a rezoning change is asked to an RP1, which is a planned district. RP1 is still an R1 zoning, and it's consistent with the regulations in the proposed district, the neighborhood characteristics, the adjacent zonings, and the suitability for the current zonings. It is an R1, so it is also our future land use map represents an R1 zoning. The change of the zoning is due to the developer's business model, but also in conjunction with our comp plan and our future land use map. Detrimental effects of the zoning. So the proposed zoning is still single family, and we see no detrimental effects of it, but I'll address some other items. There's a lot of public concern about roadways and things, and we have traffic studies. We have engineers look at this. We also have comp plan or CIPs that are addressing roads and thoroughfares and roadways and all. The city is addressing these roadways, 207th as well as Ridgeview. And yes, we have the Public Works Director. I thought he was going to be here tonight, but he has had discussions with the county and all on the roadways. So the proposed amendments are not to correct an error. Length of time, it's been RR since it was brought into the city limits. It was zoned RUR and it was brought into the closest. Utilities are adequate. The public gain on this is that it is exactly the use is in compliance with what is in the comp plan, R1, single family. Hardship would be better addressed by the owner, but in discussing that, and it was acknowledged he has brought this back in a more favorable manner in accordance to the comments that he had received from yourselves, as well as the public, as well as the council. And it does conform with the plan. Sewers provided by the city, and Water One will provide the water. The actions would be approve the application and send that to the governing body on the February 22nd, deny, and it would also go February 22nd, or the continuance of it, and we would notify the applicant, who is here obviously. And staff recommends approval of PZD 65/2022 as presented in the report.
And this is only 42 acres versus
That's correct.
91 acres for the R1, is that right?
Well, yeah, this is an R1, it's just a
No, I
planning
mean, the
district.
other one was 91
That's correct,
acres, this is
yes.
42, okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Burton for the rezoning? Does anybody have any questions for the developer? Applicant's welcome to come up too. This is just the RP1, if you wanted to come up, rezoning. If it gets passed, the next item is the preliminary plat,
Whether it's passed or not, still.
whether it's plastered. Yeah, exactly. The next item. Yeah, the public can come up if there's no other questions. Thank you for asking.
Still don't know where I'm reading from in my notes, by the way. I'm myself confused. Okay, so I want to say real quick, I know that TSH Investments also owns about 280 acres directly to the east and to the west of us. They, from 199th to 207th Street, so basically we're landlocked in. We know that there's going to be development, like you guys were saying, there's going to be growth. We understand that. I guess I have the hope that we could maybe work with them in developing this in a way that we can all live with if it's going to get approved and it's going to get developed. Something I'm gonna propose, which will probably get shot down, but I'm gonna put it out there anyways. There's no change in conditions. The applicant's business model shouldn't be allowed to override the comp plan, which I don't know if you guys want me to reread page 34 of the comp plan. I'm sure you guys all have it memorized, but I will just in case. Transitioning of urban residential development adjacent to rural large lot properties requires additional sensitivity in development design. When planning and designing a neighborhood with urban size lots adjacent to large lot rural areas, conflicts should be minimized through development layouts, lot sizes, density, landscaping, and other appropriate design elements. This rezoning does not provide for transitioning of urban residential to rural large lot properties, quite the opposite. The best way to transition from urban residential to rural large lot properties is to leave the RR zoning in place for just the RP1 area that we're talking about, so the area in the blue. And hear me out here, okay? Leave it as RR zoning in place as it requires 2 acre lots. Then you would transition from 75-foot wide lots to 2 acre lots to rural large lot properties. It could be, I know that it's not ideal and it's not at all what you guys are wanting to do, but as you're hearing from all these people that live out here in this area, if they're looking across the street and they're seeing some of these larger properties with some homes that are more like what they're used to having around them, it might be a little bit better of a transitional buffer. The proposed RP1 does not comply with the intent of the comp plan, page 34, The proposed RP1 is being used as a refuge to secure deviations from the bulk requirements in the R1 district. 17.308 in the RR District A says the purpose is to provide for the development of low-density residential neighborhoods that retain the character of the basically rural area and yet allow for the eventual conversion of the land in the district to more intensive urban uses. It is generally compatible with the single-family designation of the comp plan. It allows single-family. Bottom line, the property that is subject to the RP1 rezoning application is suitable for uses allowed in the RR District. The applicant just doesn't want to develop on 2 acres if, you know, it's not in their business model as they've looked at it. But that is what should back up to Ridgeview because there are large acreage lots across the street and to the north. 2 acre lots here would comply with the comp plan. Put another way, there's been no demonstration by the applicant that the underlying RR zoning is unreasonable. There's been no demonstration to the applicant that the subject property can't be developed as RR. To the contrary, the only reason the applicant wants to change the zoning is to substantially increase the density, which increases the developer's bottom line. That's not a reason to change the zoning, in a few of our opinions. Obviously, you guys most likely disagree, but furthermore, build the homes on 2-acre lots or on lots that are at least 14,200 square feet in size as set out in 17360 UZO as a transition buffer, this would still be a desired location of residential homes. There's people that are looking for acreage and for homes in Spring Hill right now. There's people that are always asking me, is there anything out there that you know of that's gonna be sold, that's gonna be going on the market? People are always looking for 3 to 5 acres. You can't find them. If you wanna find them, you've gotta go to Lewisburg, you have to go down to Paola, you have to go to, you have to go way further out. Those would be really high sought after. They could make quite a bit of money if they sold that area in 2-acre lots. I'm just saying, it could be a compromise for you guys to at least consider, or to maybe ask them about. They might just obviously say completely no. Something else I wanted to bring up real quick, I'll get off of that subject. You know, we talked about the utilities are adequate and available on this property. Staff only addressed utilities, basically adequate public facilities, and those facilities related to roads, sewer system, school, water supply, and distribution systems, and fire protection that meet adopted levels of service standards. What about the street network there? That needs to be improved, and no clear plan for that is proposed. No evidence in the staff report about fire protection either. Premature development may negatively impact the general welfare of the community at large. I'm gonna skip ahead. Public gain balanced by land and a hardship. The gain to the public, and that would include those in the county, not just the public in the city's limits, from a denial of the application would be to leave a zoning designation in place that conforms to the future land use map of rural. No hardship from a denial of this application is identified by the owner, and there is no hardship to the owner from a denial of this rezoning application because the applicant will be left with property zoned as RR that can be developed as RR, like we just talked about. I'll skip again. My folks and all the neighbors that you've heard from tonight, they've all invested greatly into the area. They've made financial decisions, moved their families based on the existing zoning and the comp plan, the opposition from our family and from our neighbors and others concerned residents should be given the same or greater weight as the recommendations of the staff. And then I'm going to go to something else real quick. I did see additional staff comment on here is talking about, I'm sure you guys looking at the agenda, under additional staff comment, number 1, about the RP1 area proposes lot size reductions from the minimum standards required for standard R1 developments. The minimum lot width would be reduced from 75 feet to 60 feet, which they went over. Comprehensive plan recommends developments with reduced lot sizes and widths comply with minimum architectural standards. Guideline 10, page A5, Appendix A, planning principle and design guidelines. So if you go over there, I guess my question is, what are we picking and choosing out of this? Because they're using that as reference as to why that's okay for them to reduce, and even the next one, it's RP1 goes, side setback reduction from 7 feet to 5 feet, rear setback maybe reduction from 25 feet to 20 feet if needed, and front setback reductions from 35 feet to 25 feet. I get that maybe in the curves of the cul-de-sacs that there might be.
Let me
some
just
modifications.
interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
So most of the development we've had recently has all been RP1.
Right.
And mainly because they have to bring the, preliminary plat up here, and we get to put stipulations on top of
Absolutely.
it. And have some control, more control over the development, right? The
Right.
R1, we have less control.
I
Bigger
agree.
lots, less control.
I agree.
So I just want to,
I don't think we have any
You know-
control on RR.
Yes, I do have a question that I'm following this with. I agree with you and I understand.
and so we haven't, so most of the, homes that are being developed or have been RP1, and they've actually had a mix of multifamily inside of it. This has none of the multifamily inside
Right.
of it. So I want to just tell you, we're very familiar with the codes.
Okay.
So I don't really just want you to read the codes in the.
So I do want to ask you a
plan, but
question
go-
real quick.
If you have a question. or
Yes, I
comment,
do.
Go ahead.
So the reason I read that, because that's on our agenda, right?
Yep.
So, and it's referencing the code, and that's what it's going to as the, okay. So then when I was reading through it, it's talking about how they also need to provide architectural features such as a front porch or similar enclosed front stoop feature that projects in front of the garage for any dwelling design in which a garage projects from or is flush with the principal front building facade. So there's even pictures included, and it shows like how these front porches are coming out so that you're not just looking at the garages and everything, which I know that you guys will do like further on with the RP, you guys will be able to suggest that. With everything that they had, well, I guess with the few, you know, their beginning stages of what the houses that they're proposing, if they're using that as, the staff is using that as why they can reduce their sizes, I guess I'm curious why the staff didn't tell them, like, also, if you're gonna be using that part of the appendix, why not include that into your elevations that you're gonna be proposing to them, because they're not on there at all, and it's the same appendix that you guys are using, so, well, that the staff is using. Does that make any sense, what my question is? Like, are we just
I
picking and choosing which ones we, need to include or not include for them to be, included in your additional staff comment section for you guys? I don't know. That's my question.
So, for this particular agenda item,
Yes.
they don't have to provide any of that for us.
Yeah. In fact,
But they did.
No, but I know.
they did,
For the
but they didn't
rezone-
have to.
But for the
I didn't say they
rezone-
had to, I'm just saying they did, so that's when I started looking
For
and
the
I'm like,
rezoning, they don't have to provide elevations, they don't have to provide us.
correct, I understand
They don't
that.
have to give us any of that. They could just say, we wanna rezone this to RP1, and then we just say yes or no.
My question is, how does the staff pick and choose which things they're going to pick out
Well,
and,
it's the developer, the owner of the land gets to pick how they want to rezone it and also what they want to put on the land, right? The landowner. So it's not the staff. The staff doesn't pick that. It's in our comprehensive plan on certain rezoning.
I've got it all right here.
So that's why the developer gets to choose that, and then we have to follow the zoning codes, which is part of what you're reading.
Right,
So
but
then the
they're,
staff makes sure that they're following the zoning codes on that. So the staff doesn't really pick and choose. They work with the developer, but they don't pick and choose everything. It's really the.
but the staff
developer.
did make comments about the, minimum lot size reductions. And then they reference where they're pulling it from, but then there's things in here that are not part of the preliminary plat that is not in compliance with it. So I'm curious as to how they pick and choose what they're,
And part of that could be when we go to the preliminary plat, if if the rezoning gets passed,
okay?
then we actually have more things come up that we can talk about, like the berm, trees, the landscaping around there.
Yeah, I wanna point out
Things
too
like
that
that.
Boulder Springs, when
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about the landscape, Boulder Springs is an RP1. And that
Yes.
gives us board teeth to up the landscape there.
What was the last thing you said?
It gives this board the teeth to request that.
Their landscaping's
embellish.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you drive into the neighborhood, you can't see out to the
right.
road, you can't really.
It's really the
noise
best
traffic.
single family, the RP1 is really the best zoning you can have for a subdivision in any area of Spring Hill. Because you have more control over it, to Josh's point, gives us more teeth to say, hey, we don't like this. The public's comments are taken into that, like yours are really good, because we can say, okay, we need more berming here maybe, let's consider that. We can do different things to that to make, like what Josh said for Boulder Springs, it's, was perfect, right? I mean, we were able to do a lot more there because it was an RP1. Now, if it was R1, we have very little choice. As long as they're following the code, that's what happens, we don't have any choice on that.
And then if it
So-
stays RR, we have no say.
Right, RR is, rural residential is completely, open field, so, yeah.
I do think that,
And typically it is.
I think
up to
everyone
the
would be
owner.
amazed at how sought after lots would be if they sold some big lots. And they offered those in the community, that you could actually live in the area, in town, and actually gave it a shot, because it's something that right now we're lacking. People can't live out there if they want to, unless it's on these really small
Yeah.
lots.
Yeah,
You're probably correct, but the key to
We
leaving
can't
it
tell someone what's gonna
RR
be on land. Yep,
is that you don't know what you're going to get.
that's fair.
Because that builder will put, or that person that buys it will put
But it's-
whatever they want on it.
The size of the lot, though, is a stair step of what those
Sure.
houses would be looking at and that are gonna be neighboring to, and the traffic and the density, so.
So on RR, can they?
They could build any
keep
house
it
they
like
wanted.
that And then build a duplex or fourplex
No.
on that 5 acre.
go ahead and put a modular home on RR.
Yeah,
Go ahead and
so
put two
you could
modular
divide
homes.
Correct.
Lots and then
So it-
be
yeah.
apartments or.
They couldn't do apartments.
No, at least this way we
But they could do they could do a modular home.
These,
They could do a small home on that lot, but there wouldn't be as many of them. The density wouldn't be as bad. It would reduce some of the traffic issues that we've talked about.
Or does it?
No, they couldn't do that, but
But then the question is aesthetically.
Yes.
yeah.
You probably have a very nice large home. Would you want a modular home, even though it's on 2 acres, close to your property?
Well, it looked like the developer is planning to put in plantings, right?
Or a
And
nice
trees.
subdivision that we can kind of control the aesthetics in RP1. See, that's why we always really like those, because we have more control in the aesthetics of how it looks. If things aren't, or if it's too close, there's things you can do.
Right.
Now with RR, R1, you don't have that control. You don't have any. And so it's very limited for us to help the neighbors like you in controlling.
I also think though, if somebody is buying 2-acre lots in that location, they're spending quite a bit for that 2-acre lot. They're most likely not going to be
Yeah,
building something that's not compatible with the area.
yeah. Okay, well,
Thank you guys for your time. I
we
appreciate it.
appreciate your
Thank
comments
you.
too, yeah. Is there there's probably some other public comment on this RP1 rezoning? You're welcome to come up.
I hope you can understand me. I put my aligners, my Invisalign back in my mouth, so
Right, take your time.
I do want to just reiterate everything I said previously, but also, I would also like to say that the surrounding homeowners understand there will be development. We know this is not going to remain agricultural acreage forever. We're just asking for development that is more in line with our surrounding properties. And the traffic problems we've already addressed, but going back to my earlier statement about the last decade, 610 residential building permits were issued in a decade. 600. So who's going to buy all these houses in this development, plus all of the other developments that have been recently approved that will be built on as well? I know there's going to be growth, but I question whether there is the need for this many houses right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And, I do want to mention something too, that, the planning commission, whatever we approve or just, not approve, it goes before the mayor and city council, the governing body. They are the decision makers in this town. So this will go before them, and you can plead your case there as well. So I want to make that clear. We're kind of the first round of defense for them, and so they go by a lot of what we say, but I wanted to make that clear to the public. Go ahead.
We're really just to collect information and organize it to send to them.
Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead. Is there any other public comment? Just on the RP1, if you haven't said anything new, then please come up. If you've said the same thing, then you can say it again, I guess, but make it short.
Want me to come back up? No, kidding.
Yep, go ahead. Applicant wants to come up and address.
Again, Jason Meyer, Meyer Landscape Architecture. I am not the developer. I'm just representing the developer here tonight because he couldn't be here. And I've been taking notes on everything that I've been hearing, and I think there's definitely some things that the developer can do. I think adding in berms, I think a lot of that, and again, I'm getting off of I need to probably just wait until we talk about the preliminary plat. I just wanted to make sure that everyone.
I think I'm okay with you telling them right now.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I'll wait until we do that. I also, well, I will wait until we do that.
Okay.
Talk
For the rezoning.
Okay.
I was okay with it.
Thank you.
But any other public comment? If not, then, okay, that's fine.
with all the development that's going on, where's everybody gonna shop at? Where's everybody shopping at? Olathe, Gardner, Overland Park. There's no money coming into Spring Hill except for in this, all of this. I mean, there's no shops. Spring Hill's been really weird about letting shops come in, new businesses, small businesses coming into town. And, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, we need to have businesses come in to back this up so people can go to the store in town. And they can be here spending money in nice restaurants, not McDonald's, not, you know, all this other stuff. And I saw that Quick Trip and our new traffic light made the national news. I don't know if you guys know that, but that pretty much sucked too, because that makes everybody wanna move here again. And there's nothing here. I mean, everybody's gonna be stacked on top of each other. But anyway,
Okay, thank you.
and could you guys build something like to protect me from the roundabout? Would be great.
Yeah, I understand.
Negotiation.
I'm gonna put it in there.
All right, I'd like to close this to the public if there's no new comments. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it to the public. And are there any other questions for the applicant or Mr. Burton?
I wanna
Go ahead.
address.
And our comments.
The last lady there with the businesses and that nobody wants to come here.
My name's Ann.
Ann,
Yeah.
Well, you're getting off track though, Roger.
Yeah.
one of the things that we are coming up against all the time and what I've heard before is that we don't have any businesses. But the problem is we can't get certain businesses because we don't have enough population. So there are franchise rules for populations and they won't come here if we don't have enough population. So if we don't have the customers, we can't get more businesses here. So it's a give or take, right? Yes, everybody goes everywhere else because that's where the businesses are, that's where all the consumers are at. But our population doesn't allow certain franchisees even to come here.
We don't need a franchise, we need small businesses.
Okay, here, let's get back to the rezoning, because that's what this is about right now. So is there any other comments about the rezoning to RP1?
I'll state that what I heard earlier is the concern of the aesthetic of this zoning, that people didn't want to be staring at certain housing types or setbacks, and therefore, but this RP1 is a planned district, and it also gives, as I stated earlier, gives this board teeth to request those berms, request the screening, the elevations we were talking about earlier with Boulder Springs. That's what this RP1 allows us to do. And with the zoning along the perimeter covering the entire south side and almost half the entire east side of this application, I think that is probably best suited for everyone here because it will allow us to request that sort of screening, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
It really is a nice setup. So, I mean, go ahead.
No, and just to follow up with what Josh is saying, not only that, but like with the applicant before it, and like Mr. Burton referred to, Planning Commission sent it on to council and asked for 40-foot lots to be increased to 45. So not only is it the aesthetics of it, but it's also we can request lot size changes or setback changes, or it's not
That's
just
right.
one set of teeth, but it's multiple sets.
That's correct. It's not just aesthetics. That's correct. The lot sizes too. Any other, thanks Josh for that comment. Any other good comments from commissioners about the RP1? I think if not, we're just looking for a motion at this point.
Just refresh my memory. I want to make sure I'm still correct on this. Along 207, further to the, God, I hate doing directions. Further to the west, we have RP as well, correct? Right, but we have RP already along 207. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think he has it in the report too. It's RP1 and RP3
It's
or
been too long
something.
ago since you read that.
Yep, so, I think at this point, I'm just looking for a motion.
Motion to recommend approval for rezoning application 65-2022 as presented by staff.
second.
Okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded to approve the rezoning application PZD 65-2022 RR to RP1 as presented by staff. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 8-0. All right, the next item is the preliminary plat, 66-2022 Park Landing. Mr. Burton, you have the floor to go over the preliminary plat.
Thank you. So, all the questions, it's 134 acres. We've been discussing it in the rezonings. It's 357 doors. And there is a landscape plan. There's a landscape easement on 207th at 35 foot with a 50-foot of right-of-way. And on Ridgeview, there is 60 foot of right-of-way and a 25-foot landscape easement. I'm gonna go ahead and address this landscape stuff real quick.
Sure.
So, the properties around there, you know, they, some of them have barns and things like that. And, you know, it could be, I mean, we're always looking at it at one side. And as you know, rural residential, I mean, they can go stack cars, they can put all kinds of equipment there. I'm not saying that these people are doing that yet. Someone could sell, and a lot of people, we've had calls on, you know, do they have a permit to put that barn in? You know, and the county does issue permits and all. My point is, unfortunately, I think in a lot of these cases, we're just leaning one direction. I mean, I don't know exactly why everyone thinks that the RUR is some special fancy zoning, and we have to protect the RUR or the RR with the single family. I don't understand that. It should be a balance. Our code does not call for any type of division area from residential to residential. It doesn't call for it. And, you know, the developer here does have the landscape plan. He is planning on utilizing the landscape easement around the areas. It's more for the protection of the road that's going to be built there, and, you know, to have your nice backyards and things like that. We talk about, I've heard, you know, Boulder Springs and Brookwood Farms. Well, you know, Brookwood Farms, that's what can happen when you plant trees and they grow in 15 years. No, I mean, seriously, it looks nice and all that. And that's what you're going to have. You just have to work with them and get it completed. So I think that, I mean, they would probably flip out if they came over to my house, and especially in the summer, and you've got 7 tractors lined out there, and some of them never shut off, and there's all kinds of noise, and then the neighbors, and you know, when we move manure, that's really nice, you know. So I think that overall, we need to look at it both ways, and keep in mind that no code, the county code or the city code, calls for any type of protectionary measures in our zonings. RP zonings allows you to control some of that. So that's my soapbox speech on that. We've looked at it, we've already talked about 90% of it. There were some elevations that were proposed, preliminary elevations on there to give you an idea of what they are looking at constructing. Now, when the final plat comes in, each phase of the final plat, my guess, I know there'll be probably 13 different plans like we always do, and we go through them, remove some of them, tell them they have to bring back something with, you know, a front porch or something of that nature. Or more stone, you know, as a lot of us. So here's the preliminary look at what they're looking at being constructed. And this is addressed more towards the RP, okay? Because there are no conditions on the R1. The private space, I mean, they've well exceeded that, and then for parks and all. And then remember, they are looking in, can you take it back to the plat, please? And they are gonna connect into that park ground with a trail system, and then a trail system. And I say trail system, sidewalks, and then some of it will be probably your wider, actually trail system. So, and we still have some work to do on the final proposal of the trail system. You know, it's shown in green here, and you can see that they're trying to connect it through everywhere. Well, yeah, it looks like that's connected into a lot of areas there. But anyway, no matter what, they have, on this preliminary plat, they have detention basin areas. And remember, at final plat, the calculations are being worked on now, but at final plat, they may increase a little bit or decrease a little bit in accordance to the watershed study. The RP one, they do want to reduce from 75 to 60. The setbacks from 7 feet side yard to 5 foot side yard. 25 from in the rear yard to 20, and then the front yard from 35 to 25. Now there is something interesting. I was just doing some plan review for construction of some houses in Boulder Springs that has these same requirements, and there was not a one of them that didn't have 35-foot backyard because of the size of the homes. So a lot of times we look at this and it never comes to fruition, these smaller setbacks. So usually the backyard and the side yard, those happen to have 10 and 9 actually on them. I just did those this morning. It's a 3 dwellings per acre as shown on their data table, and these uses low density 2 to 4, so they're right in the middle of that. These are conceptual elevations, and some of the elevations with final plat, they'll bring in a lot more different elevations that they're going to build. With that, staff does recommend approval of this, and an approval of a preliminary plat. I'm saying this for the public. Approval of a preliminary plat. A preliminary plat does not go to the governing body, and then each final plat will come. In discussion with them, it looks like, just so you know, that they will start in the southwest corner and work their way up due to the sewer and stormwater situations. So if you go to 207th and you go up, what they are trying to do is make it so that it goes straight north-south and accommodates lots in every type. RP, R1 standard lots, and R1 larger lots in the green. So that just gives you an idea of what they are trying to do.
There was a couple lots on there that I questioned whether we would have fence issues or sight triangle issues or line of sight issues.
You have it everywhere. I mean, but on a monthly basis, we look at site triangles and have to, a lot of them get turned.
What about with fence issues? I know
That's what I'm saying, site triangle with fence issues. Yeah, yeah, and we really do. We reject a lot of them, and a lot of times it's just simply they move it back 10 foot or 5 foot or something of that nature. And that's something that, well, I don't wanna keep going off track, so.
Okay. I
Pl-
just, there was
the-
just something that's like
Sure,
oh, that looks
sure.
like it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. Overall, I really do believe in meeting with them and talking with them. You know, they came back with the best plan that they could to be economically feasible. And I know a lot of times we forget that, you know, they just don't do this for free. And this is, I mean, it's a big risk that they're taking. And, you know, a lot of people, and they have some vacant ground out there, and, you know, they could possibly put in some large lots, and we can see how they sell and all, you know. I mean, it's very feasible, and we would like to see some more large lots. And I think up in the northwest corner, that's a good start, and there are a little larger lots, and see how that works.
Pat,
Yes, sir.
on the north side, do you know the planned landscaping along
There-
the property line on the north?
There is none.
Okay.
It's R to R. The landscaping is proposed along Ridgeview and 207th.
No, I was just asking because I think
No, I understand.
the people with the gun business, I think, is just north of this property.
Could be.
Yeah.
Very well could be. You know, it didn't go, you're speaking to the guns, and the Johnson County Sheriff is looking at, because of a few incidents, one of them happened to be in Spring Hill. There's been incidents of that, and they are looking at, if you don't own a certain amount of acres, like, you know, 60 acres, you'd be not allowed to set off your firearms in the county.
It's 10.
Is it 10?
You
Okay.
have to have 10 acres or
Well-
more to be able to shoot on your property.
Right now,
Yeah.
but
They're
yes,
looking at raise.
but they're looking at increasing that due to the incidents that have happened.
Oh,
It didn't get a whole lot of traction for a while, but I haven't kept up with it, so.
Yeah, I was under the understanding that they passed a new ordinance last year.
The city,
Because of that, no,
the county, I know they were working on it, so maybe they did. I'm not certain. We will check on that though and see. It's my curiosity now. And and she's exactly right. Gun safety, it's very big. But I would hope that, I mean, like at my house, 2 major highways, not very far away, and, you know, and what I mean, a mile, but that's not very far away. And I would think that, you know, they would do, and I know they would, they'll protect the neighborhood and all. To your question to the north, and that's why I brought up earlier the landscaping to the north. You know, I think that some of those people they'll do their own fencing and things like, well, because, you know, they may not want to look at that barn and all. So,
big white one.
so, in fairness in both sides, you know, I run into the same thing out in my area, you know what? There's a lot of people that don't like what we do, but we live with it, and we try and work with everybody, and I believe that that's what we really are doing here. And I think the developer came back in good faith on what he has here. And,
yeah, and I think he wanted to speak on some.
yeah, that's all right. Okay, are you questions answered?
No, you were done, right?
I am. if
Okay,
you
yeah,
are.
yeah, you can come up
Okay.
now. The developer can come up and answer some of the questions that he wanted to answer before.
We'll decide a couple sentences in.
Okay, thank you. Again, Jason Meyer, Meyer Landscape Architecture. Just to address some of the concerns from the public, I do think that adding berms in the landscape easements that we have surrounding the property makes a lot of sense. I think that's something that we can certainly try to accommodate. I know we've talked about it. The berm on the south side, 207th, is actually wider than what the city requires. What we have on Ridgeview, I wanted to kind of just briefly touch on the reason why the streets are aligned the way they are. So you can see we have cul-de-sacs that abut right up next to Ridgeview and then onto the south side. I do that so that way houses are not backing to those main arterial roads. And so if you look at it, there's only 10 homes that are on Ridgeview. And if you look at the neighbors to the east, there's really not very many more than 10 homes on Ridgeview right now. So I was trying to alleviate the concerns of how many backyards we backing all the way up to Ridgeview as you're driving up along there. There's really only going to be 10 houses along there. And if we do the berming and the landscaping, which I don't know if you all have seen, I mean, it's a pretty extensive landscaping that we're providing all along Ridgeview and 207th Street. So it's basically one tree less than every 10 feet across the whole stretch. Evergreen trees, deciduous shade trees, maples, and ornamental trees, all that. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that. Again, the detention that we would have to be putting in, not one drop of rain that lands on this property now and runs off cannot run off any more than that after this development. So we would not be adding to any kind of concerns for flooding. I will just mention one thing about 2 acre lots or larger lots, and I can't turn to face the folks, but it's that definitely has its place. This property has sewers, and the owner has been paying a sewer assessment tax for over 15 years now to pay for these sewers that have been brought in for development like this. And so it's the same with this piece. This same owner owns 400 acres on the other side of Ridgeview near Renner Road as well. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. All of that's sewered as well. And so the prices that you pay for ground that's sewered, you can't afford to do larger lots because you paid so much more for the ground. Those larger lots make sense when you don't have sewers because then those properties they don't require it. And so you can pay that much less for the ground. And so that's honestly, when you have growth this close to the city and sewers and utilities in place, that's really the biggest reason why we have to do the smaller lots is you just can't afford to put in all the infrastructure. When you've got the sewers there, it just doesn't pay for itself to do that. So I just wanted to make that one comment. Anyways, I stand for questions and respectfully ask for you guys' approval.
Well, thank you for that about the sewers. Anybody have any questions? Not at this point.
Thank you very much.
Preliminary. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good point.
Does anybody have any further comments or questions?
Motion to approve a preliminary plat application 66-2022 Park Landing subdivision as presented by staff.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to approve the preliminary plat application 66-2022 Park Landing as presented by staff. Start the voting on the.
Did you have public comment on
I said I would.
This is not a public comment option or a public comment agenda item.
Okay, so we've already had a motion seconded. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. Now we're in the discussion section, the city comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I think that with the timing, that if the comprehensive plan, we went over that a little bit, we'll get some more information out to you.
Sounds good. You said you have a Renner Road, any discussion on 199th to 207th and Renner Road?
Yes. Okay, no, that's fine, I'll start. So, 207th and 199th, Renner Road, Ridgeview. Here in a minute, we will show you, I think we did send you, didn't we? Yeah, that you have seen. We'll get it up here in just a minute. This development, there's a 80-acre portion of it, 78, if I remember, 79, something like that, portion that's already, we've talked about this before. They went in to change it, and the, the people talked about it, they didn't want, I don't remember what it was. It was something they didn't want. And then they were concerned about 199th and all. And, I don't know what all. But we have an existing plat that, I'll lay it here, but you've all seen it. It's been approved, I think in 2009 or 7, maybe 2007.
This one that we're looking at right now?
This one here, we'll get it up here in just a second.
Can you get it on the screen?
Yeah, we'll get it up here in a minute. And this part here changes it. You can see the existing red is already zoned commercial, and he wants to keep that. They want to come down and put some apartment areas. Now, we've discussed this, apartment areas and the, in whether we would extend that commercial on down. Because if you recall, the people of Prairie Ridge said, oh, we'd rather have commercial down through there. And so we were hoping there was more people from Prairie Ridge and all, but hopefully the next meeting, this is just a discussion item. And we're going to contact them because the developer definitely wants to not go through the last developers in, with the input on it. I can tell you, where is Mike here? Yeah, it is. I got it off of there. Okay, so a lot of the questions, the last developer just did not want to, he really had it in his mind that wanted some bigger, more apartment area or duplex and fourplex area. I don't know if you remember that or not. But along 199th, so I wanted to point out a few things here. 199th in this plat is already 4-lane. I've been saying it for a long time. It's gonna be 4-lane at some point in time. Renner is showed a Super 2. It will be 3-lane at some time. So this plan was approved in 2007. And you can see with his changes there, he would like to either have some apartments right there or come on down with the commercial clear down to the property line and then start doing what we call the typical, it's a preliminary plan, typical type of development scenario with the senior living, and it might have to be pushed a little bit, a lot of amenities, and then the rest is single family. You're talking about a total doors here of multi and single of about 1,352. So you can see that there's a large trail area in there. That's not it. That was the one that we turned down. The board did, but we're back on here. It goes all the way to 207. Thank you. So it's a big development. Now, as you can see, this development sandwiches in most of the rural residential that are there now. So you would have, right, so you would have development on their backside, but it is single family. that touches them.
And when it comes down to the golden rules, right? It
Mhm.
fits all the golden rules. It's already zoned commercial, right, in that area.
Yeah, that's exactly
So,
right.
I
So,
mean, essentially,
I-
there's not even gonna be, there wouldn't even be a rezoning on this, would there?
they wouldn't have to. Oh, well, yes, they would. Some of it is RR,
Yeah, they have to do our.
yes, but
I wasn't sure how far, if this was already
Yeah,
approved, I'm assuming there's already.
there is zoning for all this, yes. And what he wants to do, though, is, I guess the major questions are, do you feel comfortable with the apartments where they're sitting? Would you entertain or want more commercial all the way down through and then drop the apartments back a little bit?
When you're saying back, you're saying to the east?
Well, yeah, you can't go, yeah, you'd,
This is north.
no, you'd have to go south if you follow them back.
Okay.
So if you,
Back here,
yeah, or just straight back
bring all
and
the
just,
commercial.
yeah, and just keep moving everything, that's correct, and keep moving everything back. He wants to work with, Prairie Ridge and all that area.
Prairie Ridge isn't gonna like the apartments there.
I don't think they will, but, well, here's the deal, it's either, and that's what he wants to know. So if everybody wants the apartments back some and extend some commercial down through there, and then maybe some duplex area right there at the very far side, then that's good. I mean, this plan is approved. He could build it tomorrow.
What's on,
What is that?
Yeah, well, have you found it yet? Okay, I'll get it. So what it is,
on that?
pardon me?
Is there apartments on that one?
No, there's duplexes. And, yeah, but some of this is zoned where they could possibly phase in some apartments there on this part of the commercial area down here against the detention. But no, there are no apartments shown. It's a lot of duplexes. And if you remember, the reason that Planning Commission listened to Prairie Ridge residents, which that's what we need to do, but they were gonna have 3plexes and 4plexes here.
Yeah.
So the only thing that he's really concerned about is here along 199th, because the rest of it is R1. I mean, there's the senior living there. He could take the apartments clear out if he had to,
Out to where? Where would you take the apartment?
remove them, I'm sorry,
Remove them.
if it all boiled down to it.
Yeah.
But, we know that Prebes still hasn't built anything. And we were talking about commercial in the area. We just had, Ms. Sims talk about it. This would provide an area for commercial. It's already scheduled to have big box there, which if you remember some of the comments from Prairie Ridge was, oh, we'd rather see that big box there. Well, I mean, seriously, I'm not laughing at them. I'm just saying that's what they,
I remember.
and, so this is a discussion item so that we can, we would like to see some comments from the, we're not putting you on this, yeah, we're not, and we'll send this out. I don't know, did you look under?
Well, you said it was 07, the one I pulled up was from 07.
Well, look at well, it isn't.
We don't have any other commercial out there on 199.
But you remember us trying to do this before?
Yes.
Across from Prairie Ridge and the problems we had? And we decided it was zoned correctly the first time. So I'm not sure,
Well, and a lot of the.
I'm just saying, we already turned it down once, so.
That we screwed up and only had one entrance into Prairie Ridge.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
because we decided it was zoned correctly, the way it was.
All right, so we have it up now.
RP1.
Sorry about that.
It had
Two more.
I didn't make it
decided our
clear.
apartment did not be there. That's why it didn't go.
Didn't we have something going on there? Didn't we have somebody?
So I'm just saying,
Didn't we have somebody? Why am
I remember it specifically.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? Where at?
Talking about entrances to Prairie.
It was, no, it was
Some
probably
talk of something that was going in on the other side of Brenner at one
9 or something, 10.
No?
No, that was, no, it wasn't that long ago. It was about 5 years ago. It was only 5 years ago. Too long, I'm ready to get off.
Yeah, 'cause I know.
Yeah, I guess.
The apartments and then the bank and.
All right, so I'm not losing my
I really
mind.
feel like doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know
but that,
if they were.
Oh, so he doesn't have it anymore?
Mr. Smith owns it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, Pat, I gotta make a comment, cause I
You have
remember this
to.
vividly 5 years ago, whenever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we decided it was zoned appropriately the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
So putting apartments there didn't fly, right? Or it's even the, what was it, the
It was more,
RP3?
it was more the
Fourplex.
fourplexes that
Right.
they did not want.
Right, and we kind of decided as a board, we didn't want those right next to, on that road at the time.
Well, yeah, I think
because Prairie Ridge was right next to
I
it.
actually tried to listen to it and read some of the stuff, but it was more of the concern of, well, all this traffic on the road.
Remember that?
Right.
And this road project starts next year. Hello, finance.
I'm sorry, what?
This project starts next year,
On 207?
199th.
It's gonna start this year.
199th will start this
And
year.
it completes in 24.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
reconstruction of it.
yeah, that
Now,
was the main concern.
we're not gonna go 4-lane right now unless Mr. Smith comes in and says, we're starting now. And that's discussions with, the developer and the engineering firm. So, like I said, right now, it's not planned to go immediately to 4-lane, but it's gonna be widened very large. And it's gonna be from the roundabout to Renner. We believe that now, don't go running out and saying, oh, Pat said the county's gonna do this. We are under the
Did you say it's starting
understanding,
tomorrow?
it might be, you never
Pat
know. But from Renner over to 69, they would be doing improvements down through there. So, I don't look for it to be tomorrow, but it is in the planning works, which it does need to be improved, through there. Yes.
This colored version, this new
I
version.
feel like I gotta sing.
So this plan.
Could you
how
go
far-
to the,
How far down does that plan go in this? Like, is it?
right there? Yes, right
This
there.
right here
Yes,
is the existing plan.
Yeah,
yes.
down there.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
It's down there. Okay.
It wasn't that big as that.
Go back
How
to
many
that
acres
one,
is
Amy,
that?
if you would.
How many?
80.
80, okay.
I think it was 79 something,
Okay.
80 acres.
No, I can relate to 80.
Yeah. So, really, I think, like I said, the questions are, how far do you want to extend? The apartments are a big question. The road, we don't have to worry about this time. I'm gonna put, it's will be under construction. And so,
I still would rather see the fourplexes and duplexes.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I-
Well, if we took, or if the developer took and moved the apartments farther to the south and screened the apartments there
You mean
with, could you go back the other one, Amy,
Back
please?
behind all this commercial.
Yeah,
where this
just-
senior living is,
Just
and
push them back.
something out?
push them back out
Push them
here.
over here.
Yeah, just push them back. I mean, I don't have any problem with the apartments. Oh, no, and that's, you're more than welcome to,
That's kind of my opinion.
extend.
too. Don't put them in at all.
The apartments
And-
would be 288 doors.
and their reasoning,
I'd rather see fourplex than duplexes,
Well, but that was turned down.
but it,
Well, the apartments won't get approved.
Isn't there fourplexes in that right now?
No, there's duplexes.
No, this
Yeah,
was.
there's duplexes.
so leave the
No, he
duplex.
said this is approved.
Oh, yeah, that is zone.
Well, the duplexes are still shown there down there.
It's-
The
it's just
lighter
single-family
brown
duplex.
stuff, which,
They
you know,
were trying
that's
to rezone
fine.
it to
Pardon me?
RP3 or something, so they could do quads, but it didn't.
Is that
fly.
purple?
But there was a lot of them. Like, it was really.
So there is some duplexes already built into this and all. And I mean, and it's up to you guys. But here before long, we're gonna prove that 199 is gonna be a major thoroughfare.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think it would be that bad a location for apartments. Maybe not right on 199th, maybe pushing back, but I want, you guys decide that, and that would be the discussion. I think the developer or the representative wants to say a couple of things, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Cause I'm getting ready to sing here. Keep holding this mic.
And I really appreciate this time to be able to just have this discussion, because honestly, that's what the developer wants to do. We have a concept plan that we think makes sense, but if we need to do some things to make it, move it around, and honestly, I didn't know if we were gonna get public input at this point either, but, that's one of the things that the owner really wants to do, is get public feedback and your guys' feedback and council feedback before he moves forward with a preliminary plat, so that we can get buy-in from the neighborhood. I know Patrick's done a great job of explaining, we're kind of surrounding ourselves with single family where we are abutting single family. And in fact, it's kind of hard to see because north is to the left on this image. But if you look in the southeastern portion, we have quite a large green space. There's a brand new house that was built over there. That's area that we were counting as open space. We do have some RP1 right around that. So that area does have some 60-footers.
Single family.
It's all single family over around there. It's all single family. And of course, we're keeping the existing trees and the drainage areas open for linear trails and connectivity through the neighborhood. And where we had the most intense use is on the most intense street, which is 199th Street. So that's where we know it's getting improved and gonna be built and widened. So that's where we wanted to focus most of the traffic. We had a nice sweeping road that kind of comes through the neighborhood and, kind of connects things. But if we need to shift some things around, we're open to that. I think this is just a discovery discussion, just kind of hear what you guys thought.
I'm lost again. Where's the senior housing?
There's a little blue,
Oh, see that blue?
yeah, it's kind of colored in blue. And it was only 3 or 4 acres right there in the middle.
Oh, okay.
And when we say senior living, that's not, we were not thinking nursing home or anything like that. It'd be like an assisted living facility, maintenance
Oh, so
provided.
those senior living homes, not like what Black Hawk is,
They would be like what Blackhawk, but not
not individual homes.
individual care. Yes.
Right. Well, I was thinking it'd be more of a multifamily product, just like what's surrounding it is multifamily. Those are duplexes and fourplexes. So it could be something like that. But it would
not
be
nursing.
maintenance. It's not a nursing home. I mean,
No, but Black Hawk has kind
They
of
do.
both.
That's what I said. Yeah. It's
They
not
have
a
a
nursing.
facility where, but then they also have like individuals where they have a basement and they can have their own little.
sure. And if you guys think that's what you want, then that's what we can do. I mean, honestly, we're open to hearing what your guys' thoughts are.
Personally, I don't think there's enough of those.
There probably isn't.
There's probably not.
I mean, when they're wanting to downsize, but they still want to have a basement and just a smaller,
Yeah.
I wanna move into something else, and I think that Grant has,
Hello?
they go and mow it and shovel it for them.
Yep, that's all maintenance provided and probably assisted living, so they bring them meals potentially, or medicine, that type of thing. But anyways, there's a whole gamut of uses we can put in there if we wanted to. And it can be bigger than that, it can be smaller, I mean, it's just,
Cause I'm just thinking if it's next to commercial and you were lucky enough to have a grocery store there, still, maybe they could tootle over there and.
yeah.
Well, even if not, they get their hair
Right.
done and things of that
Yes,
nature also.
yes.
I'm hoping for a donut shop or something like that, but anyways, I think the overarching thing is that Tom Smith has spent a few years accumulating all of this ground, and he wanted to create something special for the city. And that's why he wanted us to come here, have this discussion with you all. We want to meet with the neighbors and get their feedback. I mean, I've heard their feedback on the 130 acres, large lots. I've heard all of that, but when you have sewers on the property, we've already, it's difficult.
Yeah, I think he needs to hear Prairie Creek
So,
feedback.
Prairie Ridge.
Yeah.
Prairie Ridge, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing also in talking with the developer in this commercial area, we're not just looking at, he really would like to set up like a Prairie Fire, Town Center Plaza type of, it's not just, what we call typical, he would,
Strip mall.
he would, there you go. He would like to work with the community and the city and maybe create something there. And that's what's exciting about this one. We're in the comp plan. We could work with him and possibly, maybe that would be, I've just throw it out, a new city hall area, a new library maybe, or an extension of the library. I don't know. But I think that in working with him and, the city go forward with some of their thought patterns, and maybe it will be a new community center, make it. And that's why, if you think of it that way, kind of like Lenexa did and things like that, that's why the apartments are kind of important. Because it gives the population there to support the businesses. And for an upscale business, obviously it costs more money. Nicer buildings, more square footage costs and things like that. So that's one of the thoughts. But like everyone's saying, and the engineer and Jason and all, he's willing to listen and work something out. But we also have to keep in mind, like I always say, it has to be both sides. Reasonable.
I think the idea of the commercial and maybe more of it being commercial, because I think, from my perspective, one of the problems that we have of attracting businesses, whether it's a franchise or whether it's a single owner, is that there is no place to rent. So if I want to bring a business, I have to buy the land, build a building, and then put up the cost to operate the business.
Right, and that's what they were talking about is, I've been by the Lenexa thing, but I haven't really been there. And they were discussing something of that nature, and that would be good for the rental of businesses and also a community building and this and that and all, and so.
And I think we want to be realistic that this much commercial right now isn't feasible. The rooftops have to be there to be able to support that much commercial. So the residential stuff's going to have to develop over the next 5-10 years before that commercial is really going to start to take off. But again, I'm being realistic.
So I'm a visual person too, and Jason, if you hear me on this one, 175th Street and Flum, so over by Aubrey Bend, Blue Valley South, the new Wolf Creek Crossing. What is it? Wolf Run. There's a new commercial development going in across the street of single family housing, a high school right around the corner. I'm kind of visualizing this would be comparable to that. Yeah.
Where is it at? It's 175th?
175th and Plum, over there by Aubrey Bend.
We'll get some,
Blue Valley South.
we'll get some information sent out to you guys on that.
And there's a small commercial strip being built right now along the south side of 175th Street.
And I think, I wanted to point out something too to Jason, because I remember that last fiasco we went through 5 years ago. But a lot of the issues that came up, if you haven't listened to any of that, was that they're worried about more crime with density, and the apartments are gonna be a real downside to, even though I understand too,
I
it's
think they
major
will
arterial
be,
road, that's where it should go.
I think it will be.
I don't know, I mean,
I really think what's gonna change some of the mindset is when that road gets constructed in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And
Right.
everyone,
Right, it'll change.
I think it'll change.
Yeah.
And
Single family school.
I just believe that, and I'm not a big apartment person, but I do know that no one's stepping up, even though we have all these places that are ready to go. I think, well, we know we can fill them. There's no problem with that. And it would support this residential area where they go down and let's say like a Johnny's is there and things like that. You know, it takes those, or an Austin's or whatever the case may be.
I'll tell
So,
you something else to look at trying to
But
bring
I'm
in
not-
there is a daycare center. This town is struggling for daycare homes and
Yeah,
daycare
fill up
centers.
right away.
and just think about it, if the city could participate in creating something there, and we look at it, and you're talking daycare and library and this and city hall, I don't know what it'd be, but I think that it would really work well. And to your point, I do know there is no place to rent also.
There's a waiting list everywhere.
I mean, for commercial especially, so, okay. All right, thank you. So
Thank you all.
I think that it gives us something to, it gives us something to start looking at, and we can, everyone can gather their thoughts. I apologize that we went this long. I really didn't think those rezonings would be that long of talking. But this is, in my opinion, perfect timing with the comp plan.
Yeah.
Especially with knowing that this developer, engineering, representative, and everything is willing to work it through. I think it could be very, very neat. So, we'll start looking at a few places, and get some plans and, start working towards that. We'll have discussions with, others, administration within the within the city. I don't know, maybe the rec department also gets involved out there and things like that, So, I think it'd be nice. And really, if I come off, all these are great questions. All of them are great comments. And, if the apartments don't work there, that's fine. We'll have to figure out though, where we're gonna get enough, to support what we kind of envision there. Something nice. Not saying, Blackhawk's nice, don't get me wrong, but I think we can build off of that and create something. Have your own chamber. Anyway, well, I appreciate it. That's really all I have report-wise, unless you guys have some questions. As you can read down there, what was approved through the council, and I appreciate your time. And when's the next? I won't be at the next one.
Oh,
When is it? No, we have one coming up to review comp plan.
2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks. That's what I thought.
Do it every other Thursday, right?
Yeah. So, I probably won't be there. I'll be gone.
Do we know if Shockey will be there though? Can we kind
Well,
of get confirmation?
okay, we'll keep trying.
Because I mean, outside of what we did earlier today, I don't know how much we can build off. Of
Right.
that.
No, I agree with that.
Guidance.
Wait, and if they're not going to be able to, if we haven't gotten the okay from the legal counsel, then we'll let you know and cancel it out. And I'm pushing on him. I talked to him. Is it Saturday or Sunday? I don't remember. And then I spoke with him yesterday or the day before, and yeah, they're working on it. But I wouldn't think it would be that tough. So, anyway, thank you all. Yes, sir.
We have
Oh,
our
yeah.
chair elections at the next meeting too.
I think that is in March, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, let's see. all of you know that you're reappointed.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't think about telling you, but Glenda should have gotten a hold of you or Ashley, so that's good, so. All right, I do appreciate it. I know it's late, and we'll just, continue.
The next one, the special one's on 16th.
Yeah, the next
I wanna make sure.
two, every other Thursday. Any other announcements from commissioners or staff? Yeah, we're gonna miss, periodically, a lot of people are gonna miss so often, so it's okay. Just as long as some.
I won't be
some-
here.
Yeah, and,
I'll be in Florida.
well, I understand. I mean, in the summer.
Thanks for the invite here.
I just need a motion to adjourn at this.
Move that we adjourn.
Okay, we have motion, it's been seconded to adjourn, start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 8-0.
Hey, Mary.